The day is done. The light has faded, and the world outside your window has settled into a quiet hum. But here, in the stillness of your room, a different kind of noise begins. The conversation inside your mind continues, relentless and loud. It speaks of tomorrow's obligations, replaying conversations from yesterday, presenting worries and plans in an endless cycle. You seek rest. You long for the quiet release of sleep, but your mind is a turbulent sea, its waves of thought crashing against the shore of your awareness, keeping you awake, keeping you tense. This feeling is not yours alone. It is the quiet suffering of so many in our fast-paced world. We are taught to do, to achieve, to strive, but we are rarely taught how to simply be. Our minds have become like a glass of water filled with mud, constantly shaken, never given the chance for the sediment to settle, for the water to become clear. We search for peace in external things, in finishing the to-do list, in the next vacation, in a moment of distraction. But true, lasting peace remains elusive, a fleeting shadow we can never quite grasp. But there is another way, there is a path, walked for thousands of years by those who sought to understand the nature of the mind and to find freedom from its restlessness. It is a gentle path, one that does not require you to fight your thoughts or to force your mind into silence. Instead, it invites you to become a patient observer. It offers not a complicated doctrine, but a simple return, a return to the anchor of your breath, a return to the truth of this present moment, and a return to the profound wisdom held within simple stories. Tonight, this journey is your invitation to step onto that path. We will not analyze or struggle. We will simply listen, allowing a collection of ancient fables and timeless teachings to be a gentle lullaby for your soul. Think of these words not as information to be memorized, but as a soft rain, washing away the dust of the day. They are seeds of tranquility, of letting go, of compassion, planted in the fertile ground of your mind, to be watered by your rest. There is nothing for you to do now, but to breathe, nothing to figure out, but to feel the weight of your body surrendering to gravity. Allow these stories to be your guide, leading you away from the tangled forests of worry and into the clear, open meadow of deep, restorative sleep. Your only task is to receive, to relax, and to allow yourself to drift. Let us begin our journey tonight by turning our attention inward, to the landscape of the mind. For many of us, this inner world is not a place of peace, but a place of constant motion. Imagine, if you will, that your mind is a great and ancient river. It has been flowing for as long as you have been alive, and it will continue to flow. The water of this river is your thoughts. Sometimes the river is slow, calm, and clear, the thoughts gentle and meandering. Other times, it is a raging torrent, a flash flood of worries, plans, and memories, churning with mud and debris. Its current powerful and overwhelming. For so long, we have been taught, or have taught ourselves, that the goal is to stop this river. We stand in the middle of the current, trying to build a dam with our bare hands. We push against the flow, believing that if we could only stop thinking, we would find peace. We strain and we struggle, and the effort is immense. When a thought of anxiety appears, We fight it. We try to push it away. When a painful memory surfaces, we try to submerge it. But what happens when you try to dam a powerful river? The pressure builds. The water pushes back with even greater force. The struggle itself creates more turbulence, more churning, more exhaustion. In our effort to find silence, we create an inner war, a battle against the very nature of our own minds. And in this battle, we are always destined to lose, because the mind's nature is to think, just as a river's nature is to flow. Tonight, we will try a radically different approach. We will not try to stop the river. We will simply step out of it. Imagine yourself now, finding a soft, comfortable spot on the grassy bank of this river of your mind. You can lie down in the cool grass, under the gentle light of a crescent moon. From this place of safety and rest, you simply watch. Your only task is to observe the river as it flows by. You do not need to judge it. You do not need to change it. And you certainly do not need to jump into it. Look now and see what floats by. Perhaps a leaf of a memory from your childhood drifts past, catching the light for a moment before moving on. Then comes a tangled branch, a thought about a difficult conversation you need to have tomorrow. Watch it come into view. Notice its shape and texture, and then watch as the current carries it away. Downstream, a small, paper boat of planning for the weekend appears, followed by a dark, heavy stone of regret about something you did or said. There is no need to reach out and grab any of these things. There is no need to analyze where they came from or where they are going. You are the watcher on the bank. Your job is simply to notice. A thought of work. See it, acknowledge it, and let it go. A fantasy about the future. See it, acknowledge it, and let it float by. You do not offer resistance. You do not get entangled. You offer only a gentle, non-judgmental awareness. This is the first step toward peace, not by fighting the mind, but by befriending it from a safe distance. There is an old story of a young monk who was desperate to find inner stillness. He was told that the highest state of meditation was a mind as clear and still as a mountain lake. So he found a beautiful lake, high in the mountains. But he grew frustrated because its surface was constantly disturbed by ripples from the wind. Determined to achieve stillness, he waded into the lake and tried to flatten the ripples with his hands. But the more he pushed and splashed, the more chaotic the water became. He thrashed and struggled, his own efforts creating bigger and more violent waves, until the water was completely opaque with his turmoil. Exhausted and defeated, he sat on the shore, his head in his hands. His old teacher found him there and, seeing his distress, simply sat beside him. He didn't offer a complicated teaching. He just said, "Wait." The young monk, having no energy left to fight, simply sat. He watched the lake. As he sat in stillness, the wind began to die down. The frantic waves he had created slowly subsided. The ripples grew smaller and smaller, until finally, the surface of the lake became a perfect, unbroken mirror, reflecting the vast, silent sky above. The stillness he had fought so hard to create came to him only when he stopped fighting and simply allowed the lake to be itself. Your mind is this lake. Your constant effort to control and suppress your thoughts is the frantic splashing in the water. The path to clarity The path to peace is to simply sit on the shore, allow the winds to blow, allow the ripples to form, and trust that if you do not add your own struggle to them, they will eventually, in their own time, settle. As you rest here on the riverbank, a profound realization can begin to dawn. You are not the river. You are not the thoughts. A thought of sadness may float by, but you are not sadness. A thought of fear may appear, but you are not fear. We have spent our lives believing that we are the content of our minds. We say, "I am angry," when in reality, a thought and feeling of anger is simply passing through our awareness. You are not the clouds that drift through the sky, you are the sky itself. The sky is vast, open, and aware. It allows all clouds to pass through it. Dark storm clouds, light wispy clouds, brilliant sunset clouds. The clouds come and they go, but the sky remains, unchanged, unstained, and forever present. To realize this is to find an incredible freedom. You can let the weather of your mind be what it is, without believing that you are the storm. This space between you, the observer, and the thoughts that are observed, is the space where peace is born. The danger, the source of so much of our suffering, comes from forgetting this. It comes when we leap from the safety of the riverbank and jump into the current. A single thought of worry can arise. A small, dark leaf. What if I fail, it says. If we just watch it, it will float by. But if we identify with it, if we grab onto it, we are immediately pulled into the river. We are swept away in the current, tumbling over rocks of self-doubt, getting caught in whirlpools of catastrophic scenarios, drowning in a story that began with a single, tiny thought. We lose our footing. We lose our connection to the present moment. We lose our peace. The practice is to notice, as quickly as you can, when you have jumped in, the moment you realize you are being carried away by a stream of anxious thoughts. You do not panic or blame yourself. You simply and gently, with great kindness, guide yourself back to the shore. You sit down again. You take a breath, and you resume your post as the patient, compassionate watcher. Every time you do this, you weaken the habit of entanglement and you strengthen the muscle of mindful awareness. So for now, just rest here. Let the river of your mind flow as it will. It does not need your management. It does not need your control. Give yourself this great gift of non-interference. Watch the leaves, the branches, the stones as they drift by in the gentle current. Notice their shape, their color, their texture, and then let them go. Let them disappear around the bend. You are the silent watcher. You are the vast sky. You are the stillness that holds all the movement. And as you continue to rest here, patiently observing this ever-flowing river, you may begin to notice something else. You may notice that some of these thoughts, some of these leaves floating by, carry a certain quality, a distinct energy, a color or a temperature. They are not just neutral thoughts. They are wrapped in a powerful charge. This energy, this charge that accompanies our thoughts, is what we call emotion, and learning how to greet these powerful visitors is our next step on this journey into rest. Let us begin our journey tonight by turning our attention inward, to the landscape of the mind. For many of us, this inner world is not a place of peace, but a place of constant motion. Imagine, if you will, that your mind is a great and ancient river. It has been flowing for as long as you have been alive, and it will continue to flow. The water of this river is your thoughts. Sometimes the river is slow, calm, and clear, the thoughts gentle and meandering. Other times, it is a raging torrent, a flash flood of worries, plans, and memories, churning with mud and debris. Its current powerful and overwhelming. For so long, we have been taught, or have taught ourselves, that the goal is to stop this river. We stand in the middle of the current, trying to build a dam with our bare hands. We push against the flow, believing that if we could only stop thinking, we would find peace. We strain and we struggle, and the effort is immense. When a thought of anxiety appears, we fight it. We try to push it away. When a painful memory surfaces, we try to submerge it. But what happens when you try to dam a powerful river? The pressure builds. The water pushes back with even greater force. The struggle itself creates more turbulence, more churning, more exhaustion. In our effort to find silence, we create an inner war, a battle against the very nature of our own minds. And in this battle, we are always destined to lose, because the mind's nature is to think, just as a river's nature is to flow. Tonight, we will try a radically different approach. We will not try to stop the river. We will simply step out of it. Imagine yourself now, finding a soft, comfortable spot on the grassy bank of this river of your mind. You can lie down in the cool grass, under the gentle light of a crescent moon. From this place of safety and rest, you simply watch. Your only task is to observe the river as it flows by. You do not need to judge it. You do not need to change it. And you certainly do not need to jump into it. Look now and see what floats by. Perhaps a leaf of a memory from your childhood drifts past, catching the light for a moment before moving on. Then comes a tangled branch, a thought about a difficult conversation you need to have tomorrow. Watch it come into view. Notice its shape and texture, and then watch as the current carries it away. Downstream, a paper boat of planning for the weekend appears, followed by a dark, heavy stone of regret about something you did or said. There is no need to reach out and grab any of these things. There is no need to analyze where they came from or where they are going. You are the watcher on the bank. Your job is simply to notice. A thought of work. See it, acknowledge it, and let it go. A fantasy about the future. See it, acknowledge it, and let it float by. You do not offer resistance. You do not get entangled. You offer only a gentle, non-judgmental awareness. This is the first step toward peace, not by fighting the mind, but by befriending it from a safe distance. There is an old story of a young monk who was desperate to find inner stillness. He was told that the highest state of meditation was a mind as clear and still as a mountain lake. So he found a beautiful lake, high in the mountains. But he grew frustrated because its surface was constantly disturbed by ripples from the wind. Determined to achieve stillness, he waded into the lake and tried to flatten the ripples with his hands. But the more he pushed and splashed, the more chaotic the water became. He thrashed and struggled, his own efforts creating bigger and more violent waves, until the water was completely opaque with his turmoil. exhausted and defeated. He sat on the shore, his head in his hands. His old teacher found him there and, seeing his distress, simply sat beside him. He didn't offer a complicated teaching. He just said, "Wait." The young monk, having no energy left to fight, simply sat. He watched the lake. As he sat in stillness, the wind began to die down. The frantic waves he had created slowly subsided. The ripples grew smaller and smaller, until finally, the surface of the lake became a perfect, unbroken mirror, reflecting the vast, silent sky above. The stillness he had fought so hard to create came to him only when he stopped fighting and simply allowed the lake to be itself. Your mind is this lake. Your constant effort to control and suppress your thoughts is the frantic splashing in the water. The path to clarity, the path to peace, is to simply sit on the shore, allow the winds to blow, allow the ripples to form, and trust that if you do not add your own struggle to them, they will eventually, in their own time, settle. As you rest here on the riverbank, a profound realization can begin to dawn. You are not the river. You are not the thoughts. A thought of sadness may float by, but you are not sadness. A thought of fear may appear, but you are not fear. We have spent our lives believing that we are the content of our minds. We say, "I am angry," when in reality, a thought and feeling of anger is simply passing through our awareness. You are not the clouds that drift through the sky. You are the sky itself. The sky is vast, open, and aware. It allows all clouds to pass through it. Dark storm clouds, light wispy clouds, brilliant sunset clouds. The clouds come and they go, but the sky remains, unchanged, unstained, and forever present. To realize this is to find an incredible freedom. You can let the weather of your mind be what it is, without believing that you are the storm. This space between you, the observer, and the thoughts that are observed, is the space where peace is born. The danger, the source of so much of our suffering, comes from forgetting this. It comes when we leap from the safety of the riverbank and jump into the current. A single thought of worry can arise. A small, dark leaf. What if I fail, it says. If we just watch it, it will float by. But if we identify with it, if we grab onto it, we are immediately pulled into the river. We are swept away in the current, tumbling over rocks of self-doubt, getting caught in whirlpools of catastrophic scenarios, drowning in a story that began with a single, tiny thought. We lose our footing. We lose our connection to the present moment. We lose our peace. The practice is to notice, as quickly as you can, when you have jumped in, the moment you realize you are being carried away by a stream of anxious thoughts. You do not panic or blame yourself. You simply and gently, with great kindness, guide yourself back to the shore. You sit down again. You take a breath, and you resume your post as the patient, compassionate watcher. Every time you do this, you weaken the habit of entanglement and you strengthen the muscle of mindful awareness. So for now, just rest here. Let the river of your mind flow as it will. It does not need your management. It does not need your control. Give yourself this great gift of non-interference. Watch the leaves, the branches, the stones as they drift by in the gentle current. Notice their shape, their color, their texture, and then let them go. Let them disappear around the bend. You are the silent watcher. You are the vast sky. You are the stillness that holds all the movement. And as you continue to rest here, patiently observing this ever-flowing river, you may begin to notice something else. You may notice that some of these thoughts, some of these leaves floating by, carry a certain quality, to a distinct energy, a color or a temperature. They are not just neutral thoughts. They are wrapped in a powerful charge. This energy, this charge that accompanies our thoughts, is what we call emotion. And learning how to greet these powerful visitors is our next step on this journey into rest. As you continue to rest on the bank of the mind's river, watching the flow of thoughts without struggle, you begin to notice that some of them carry a unique energy. A thought of a past success might float by, wrapped in a warm, glowing light of happiness. A thought of a future uncertainty might appear as a cold, heavy stone of anxiety. This energy, this color and temperature that clothes our thoughts, is what we call emotion. And just as we have a habitual way of fighting our thoughts, we have a deeply ingrained habit of reacting to our emotions, creating even more turmoil in our inner world. Let us shift our metaphor now. Imagine your inner being. Your awareness is a house. It is your home. It has a door, windows, and comfortable chairs. It is the only true home you will ever have. And throughout the day and into the night, you receive visitors. These visitors are your emotions. When the guest named Joy arrives, there is no problem. She comes to the door laughing, radiant and full of light. We throw the door wide open. We welcome her in. We offer her the best seat, and we beg her to stay for as long as she can. We delight in her company. When the visitor named Peace comes, quiet and serene, we cherish his presence, basking in the calm he brings to our home. But then, there is a different kind of knock on the door. It is a frantic, urgent rapping. We look through the peephole and see fear. With wide eyes and a pale face, our instant reaction is to bolt the door, to turn off all the lights and pretend we are not home. We hold our breath, hoping fear will simply go away. Then, another visitor arrives. We can feel the heavy, slow footsteps on the path. It is sadness, cloaked in grey, her shoulders slumped. We do not want her sorrow to enter our home, so we keep the door firmly shut. Un moment later, the whole house begins to shake. Anger is here, his face red, banging on the door frame, demanding to be let in. Our strategy for these guests is always the same: resistance. We barricade ourselves inside, spending enormous amounts of energy trying to keep these difficult, uncomfortable emotions out, but they do not leave. In fact, our resistance seems to make them stronger. Fear rattles the windows. Sadness sits on our doorstep, making the whole entrance feel cold and damp. Anger begins to kick at the door, his shouts growing louder. Our home, which should be a sanctuary of rest, becomes a fortress under siege. We are not at peace. We are in a constant state of high alert, exhausted by the effort of keeping our own inner experience at bay. The great 13th century poet and mystic, Rumi, knew of this human struggle, and he offered a revolutionary alternative. He wrote a poem called The Guest House, and in it lies a profound teaching for finding peace. He said this being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows, who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Let these words settle into you. What would it mean to actually do this? To meet shame at the door, and instead of slamming it shut, to open it and say, I see you are here. Welcome. What would it feel like to meet anger? Not with more anger or with fear, but to simply open the door and invite him to sit down, to give him a space in your home. This is the practice of radical hospitality. It is the practice of ending the inner war. Let us try this now, in the safety of this moment. As you lie here, perhaps you can sense a visitor who has been knocking. Perhaps it is a subtle anxiety about tomorrow. Perhaps it is a lingering sadness from the day. Instead of tensing up against it, just for a moment, imagine yourself getting up and unbolting the door. You open it wide. You look at this guest, this emotion, and you offer a simple, silent welcome. You invite it in. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with its story. You are simply acknowledging its presence. Anxiety, you are here. Come in. There is a place for you. Now, you offer this guest a chair. You don't argue with it. You don't scold it for being here. You practice a courageous and compassionate curiosity. You can ask it silent questions. Where do I feel you in my body? Are you a tightness in my chest, a knot in my stomach, a tingling in my hands? What is your temperature? Are you hot like anger or cold like fear? What is your texture? Are you sharp and jagged or heavy and dense? You are not asking for its story, its justifications, its list of reasons for being here. You are simply getting to know its physical presence. You are treating it like an interesting, if difficult, guest, rather than an enemy invader. And a strange thing happens when you do this. When an emotion is met with this kind of spacious, curious attention, it often begins to change. The guest who was shouting and banging on the door, once invited in and given a comfortable chair and a cup of tea, no longer needs to shout. Its energy softens. By allowing it to be there, you rob it of its power over you. The resistance was the fuel for its fire. Your acceptance is like a cool, soothing balm. You realize that the emotion itself was not the primary problem. The struggle against the emotion was the source of the deepest suffering. And here is the final, liberating truth of the guest house. No guest stays forever. We create suffering because we try to chain the guests we like to the furniture, and we live in constant fear of the guests we dislike. But the nature of all guests is that they eventually leave. Joy will finish her tea. Thank you for your hospitality, and continue on her way. And sadness, after she has sat quietly with you for a time, will also rise and take her leave. Anger, once heard and acknowledged, will find his intensity has dissipated, and he too will walk out the door. They all come, and they all go, They are transient currents of energy passing through the vast, open space of your awareness. When you know this in your bones, you are no longer afraid. You don't have to panic when a difficult emotion arrives, because you know it is just a visitor. It is not a permanent resident. It has not come to take over your home. It has simply come to visit, and like all visitors, it will depart. Your house of the mind can then transform from a fortress into an open pavilion, with a gentle breeze blowing through, allowing all of life to flow in and out, without resistance, without fear. To sit patiently with a difficult guest like grief or fear requires a deep well of stability and courage. To watch the river of thoughts without being swept away requires a firm footing on the bank. To cultivate this stability, we need an anchor. We need something that can hold us steady when the inner winds blow and the emotional guests are knocking at our door. This anchor is not something you need to find or create. You already possess it. It has been with you every moment of your life. A constant, reliable rhythm. This anchor, this ever-present refuge, is your own breath. And learning to rest in the breath is the next step on our journey home. We have sat beside the river of our thoughts, learning not to be swept away by its current. We have opened the door of our inner home, learning to welcome the many emotional guests who arrive. But to do this work, to face the sometimes turbulent waters and the more challenging visitors, requires a profound stability. It requires an anchor that can hold us steady, a safe harbor we can return to, no matter how stormy the inner weather becomes. This anchor is not something you must search for. It is not something you need to build or acquire. It has been with you from your very first moment of life, and it will be with you until your very last. It is the simple, miraculous, and ever-present rhythm of your own breath. The mind, left to its own devices, is a time traveler. It lives almost anywhere but here and now. It spends its energy journeying into the past, replaying old conversations, reliving past hurts, or basking in the fading glow of old glories. Or it rockets into the future, rehearsing for events that may never happen, constructing elaborate fantasies, or building mountains of worry and anxiety. The past is a ghost, the future is a dream, and the mind that lives in them is never truly home. The breath, however, is different. The breath is a master of the present moment. You cannot take a breath that is in the past. You cannot inhale in the future. Each breath, each and every one, can only happen right now. It is a physical, tangible, undeniable manifestation of the present moment. And for this reason, the breath is our bridge. When the mind is lost in the fog of yesterday or tomorrow, the gentle attention placed on the breath is the bridge that leads it back home, to the only place where life is truly happening, the only place where peace can be found this present moment. Let us walk across that bridge together now. There is nothing you need to do, nothing to force. Your breath is already breathing itself. It requires no effort on your part. Your only task is to rest your attention upon it. As you would rest your head on a soft pillow, you can begin by noticing the sensation of the air as it enters your body. You might feel the cool touch of the air at the tip of your nostrils as you breathe in, and you might feel the slightly warmer air as it leaves your body when you breathe out. Cool air coming in, warm air going out. You don't need to change a thing. Simply notice. You might also bring your awareness to the gentle movements of your body, Perhaps you can place a hand on your abdomen and feel its very soft rise as the breath flows in, and its gentle fall as the breath flows out, like a gentle wave on a very calm sea, rising and falling, breathing in. My belly rises, breathing out. My belly falls. This simple rhythm is the heartbeat of the present moment. It is your anchor in the now. Of course, the mind, out of its old habit, will wander. It will drift away into a thought, a sound, a memory. This is not a failure. It is simply what minds do. When you notice that your attention has drifted, there is no need for frustration. Gently, and with the kindness you would show to a small child, you simply acknowledge where the mind went, and then you lovingly escort it back to the breath. The breath is always here, waiting for you, with no judgment. Each time you return to the breath, you are strengthening the muscle of mindfulness. You are deepening the groove of peace, breathing in and breathing out. In the old teachings, the untamed mind, with its chaotic energy and endless wandering, is often compared to a wild buffalo. It crashes through the jungle, powerful and untamed, following any whim, causing destruction without even realizing it. This is our mind when it is lost in reactivity, driven by fear and desire. A wise farmer who wishes to tame this buffalo does not try to wrestle it to the ground. That would be a futile and dangerous struggle. Instead, he finds a very strong, sturdy post, and he drives it deep into the earth. This post is solid, immovable, and secure. This post is your breath. Then, he takes a rope and ties the buffalo to the post. This rope is your attention. At first, the buffalo is furious. It pulls and strains against the rope, running in circles, charging and pulling back, trying with all its might to break free and run back into the jungle. This is the mind when we first begin to practice. It resists. It fights against the stillness, desperate for its usual distractions. But the post is firm. The rope holds, and slowly, gradually, the wild buffalo begins to tire. It realizes that its struggle is useless. It slows its frantic running. Its circles become smaller, and eventually, exhausted from its own resistance, it lies down at the foot of the post. It is not broken, but it is calm. It has found a strange kind of peace, a contentment in resting right where it is, anchored to the post. Your mind is this buffalo. Your breath is this post. The practice of returning again and again, with gentle persistence, is the rope that tames the mind. It is not a violent process, but a patient one, and in time, the mind finds it can rest peacefully, anchored to the quiet, steady rhythm of the breath. This anchor is not just for moments of quiet meditation. It is a portable refuge that you can carry with you into every moment of your life. When you feel a wave of anger rising, or a knot of anxiety tightening in your stomach, you can remember the post. You can bring your attention to your breath. Just one conscious in-breath and one conscious out-breath can create a sacred pause. It is a moment of space between the trigger and your habitual reaction. In that space, you find freedom. You find choice. You are no longer a slave to your reactivity. There is a deep, physiological wisdom here as well. A stormy mind creates short, shallow, erratic breathing, but this is a two-way street. By consciously making your breath a little slower, a little deeper, a little more rhythmic, you send a powerful signal of safety directly to your nervous system. You are speaking to your body in its own language, telling it is safe to relax. All is well. Slowing your breath is a direct, physical command to your mind to become calm. It is a simple, biological key to unlocking a state of ease. So rest now. With your anchor, feel the gentle rise and fall. Let it be the only thing that matters in this moment. This breath is your truest home, your most reliable refuge, always available, always welcoming you back. And now that we have this anchor firmly in place, now that we have a safe harbor to return to whenever we need, we can begin to look with courage and clarity at the very source of the mind's storms. We can begin to investigate the fundamental reason why the river of thought becomes a raging torrent, and why the difficult guests keep banging on our door, demanding our attention. This source has a name. In the ancient teachings, it is called attachment, the habit of grasping, clinging, and holding on to that which, by its very nature, is destined to change. Resting here, anchored by the steady, quiet rhythm of your own breath, you have found a place of stability. From this safe harbor, we can now look with gentle courage at the very root of our inner restlessness. We can investigate why the river of the mind so often becomes a turbulent flood, and why difficult guests so often bang upon our door. The answer is found in one of the most simple, yet profound, of human experiences, the act of grasping. Imagine for a moment that you are walking on a beautiful, sun-drenched beach. You reach down and scoop up a handful of warm, golden sand. It represents anything in life you cherish or desire, a moment of happiness, the love of another person, a sense of security, a treasured success. You look at this beautiful sand in your hand, and a subtle fear arises, the fear of losing it. And so, you do what seems most natural. You clench your fist, you squeeze tightly, determined to hold on, to possess this wonderful thing, to make it yours forever. But a strange and frustrating thing happens. The tighter you squeeze, the more desperately you try to keep it. The faster the fine grains of sand trickle out through the cracks between your fingers. Your very effort to secure it is precisely what causes you to lose it. The tension in your hand, the strain, the desperate clenching only accelerates the loss. Now, imagine you do the opposite. You relax your hand. You open your palm. The sand now rests gently in the open space you have created. It may stay there for a very long time. A gentle breeze might take a few grains, but the bulk of it remains, resting peacefully. This is the great paradox of the mind. The path to keeping anything is to hold it lightly. The source of our suffering is the clenched fist. The Buddha, as a wise and compassionate physician of the mind, saw this human tendency as the root of our dissatisfaction. His first great teaching, known as the Four Noble Truths, is a simple diagnosis and a prescription for this condition. It is not a pessimistic creed, but a realistic and hopeful path to healing. The first truth is simply the acknowledgement of this dissatisfaction, this underlying friction in life, which he called dukkha. It's the sand trickling through our fingers. It's the feeling that even in our happiest moments, there is a subtle unease because we know it won't last. It is the stress of trying to hold our world together, The second truth is the diagnosis of the cause. The cause of this friction is our grasping, our clinging, our desperate thirst for things to be different than they are. We clench our fist around pleasure, demanding that it stay. We clench our fist against pain, trying to push it away. We clench our fist around our ideas, our beliefs, our identity, terrified that they might be challenged. This constant clenching, this inner tension of wanting and not wanting, is the source of our exhaustion. The third truth is the prognosis, and it is full of hope. It states that an end to this friction is possible. If the cause of the suffering is the clenched fist, then the cure is simply to learn how to gently, gradually open the hand. Peace is not found by getting more sand, but by relaxing the grip. And the fourth truth is the prescription. There is a practical, step-by-step path that teaches us how to relax this grip, a path of wisdom and compassion that we can walk in our own lives. There is a story told in the villages of Asia that perfectly illustrates this self-imposed trap of grasping. Villagers have a clever way of catching monkeys. They take a coconut and hollow it out, drilling a hole just big enough for a monkey's slender, open hand to slip inside. Then they place a sweet portion of rice inside the coconut and tie it firmly to the base of a tree. Soon, a monkey, drawn by the scent, will come along. It will slip its hand into the coconut, grasp the delicious fistful of rice, and then try to pull its hand out. But it cannot. Its clenched fist, now full of rice, is too large to fit back through the hole. The monkey becomes frantic. It pulls and shrieks. It yanks the coconut against the rope, but it is stuck fast. The villagers can then approach and easily capture the panicked animal. The tragedy of the story lies in this simple fact. The monkey is not truly trapped by the coconut or the rope. It is trapped by its own fist. It is trapped by its own desire, its own refusal to let go. At any moment, all it has to do to be completely free is to open its hand, release the rice, and slide its empty hand out. But its craving is so powerful. Its attachment to that fistful of rice is so absolute that it sacrifices its very freedom for it. In so many ways, we are just like that monkey. We are holding onto our own fistfuls of rice, trapping ourselves in cycles of anxiety and stress, all because we are unwilling to open our hand. What is the rice you are clinging to? Perhaps it is a material possession. You wanted a new phone, and the wanting was a form of suffering. Then you got it, and for a moment there was pleasure, but this was immediately followed by the fear of it breaking, the anxiety of it being stolen, the grasping to keep it new and perfect. The object of desire becomes an object of stress. Perhaps the rice is your reputation. You cling to the idea of being seen as smart, or kind, or successful. Then one person criticizes you, and your entire inner world collapses, because your clenched fist around that identity has been challenged. Perhaps the rice is simply being right. We argue. We create conflict with those we love, all because we cannot bear to open our hand and let go of our own opinion. We even cling to memories. We grasp onto the good old days, a perfect vacation, our past relationship, and we compare all of our present experiences to that gilded memory. By clinging to the ghost of the past, we cannot fully taste the reality of the present. We are trapped by a memory of rice, while fresh food is all around us. To learn to let go is not to become cold, apathetic, or unloving. It is not a bleak renunciation of life's joys. This is a common misunderstanding. Let's return to the beach. Opening your hand does not mean throwing the sand away. It means shifting from a tense fist of possession to a relaxed, open palm of appreciation. You can still feel the warmth of the sand. You can still admire its golden color, but you are no longer trying to own it. You are simply enjoying it. For as long as it is there, this is the heart of true freedom. It is loving a person with an open hand, appreciating them for who they are, without the fearful clinging that leads to jealousy and control. It is enjoying success with an open hand, grateful for the experience, without your entire identity depending on it. It is the shift from, I need this to be happy, to I can be happy while this is here. And so, the question arises, why is our grasping so futile? Why does the sand always slip through our fingers? Why is the monkey's strategy of holding on doomed to fail? It is because this act of grasping goes directly against the most fundamental, inescapable law of existence. We are trying to clench our fist around things that cannot be held, because their very nature is to flow, to shift, and to change. To truly learn how to open our hand, we must first look deeply into and make peace with the universal truth of impermanence. We left ourselves with a question, a deep and fundamental inquiry into the nature of our suffering. We saw that our pain comes from a clenched fist, from grasping and clinging to things, like a monkey refusing to let go of a fistful of rice. But why is this grasping always doomed to fail? Why does the sand of happiness always trickle through our fingers? No matter how tightly we squeeze, the answer is found in the most basic, undeniable, and universal law of existence, a law that nature teaches us in every falling leaf, in every passing cloud, and most profoundly, in the lesson of the river. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus said that you can never step into the same river twice. The thought is so profound that it has echoed through millennia of wisdom traditions. Think of it now. You stand on the bank of a flowing river. You step in, and the water that touches your skin is a unique collection of molecules on a journey from the mountains to the sea. You step out, and then step back in again. Is it the same river? No. The water that touched you a moment ago is already downstream, and new water is now flowing past. The silt on the riverbed has shifted. The light is reflecting at a new angle. It is a new river. And what of the person stepping into it? Are you the same person you were a moment ago? Millions of cells in your body have died and been replaced. A new thought has entered your mind. The feeling in your heart has subtly shifted. You, too, are a different person. The river is in flux, and you are in flux. Everything, absolutely everything, is a flowing process. This universal law is called impermanence. Life is not a static photograph. It is a moving film. Your body is not a solid sculpture. It is a dynamic colony of changing cells. Your mind is not a fixed entity. It is a stream of consciousness. Your relationships are not set in stone. They are living, evolving dances. We live in a universe defined by change. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is fixed. Everything is in a state of constant becoming. And yet, we spend most of our lives fighting this fundamental law. Our suffering arises not from the fact of change itself, but from our resistance to it. We try to build a dam in the middle of the river of life. We fall in love. and we want that first flush of romance to last forever. Unchanged, we achieve a moment of success, and we try to build a monument to it, terrified that it might fade. We look in the mirror and see the lines of time on our face, and we resist this natural unfolding. We lose someone we love, and we are shattered because we were clinging to the illusion that they would be with us forever. All of this resistance, this attempt to hold back the current, is like trying to swim upstream in a powerful river. It is exhausting, it is futile, and it is the very source of our deepest anxieties and sorrows. The clenched fist is a fist clenched against the flow of time. Peace arrives. Sanity is restored. The moment we finally unclench that fist and allow ourselves to float with the current rather than fighting against it. There is a wise old Taoist story that speaks to the folly of judging this ever-changing flow. An old farmer lived in a small village. One day, his only horse ran away. His neighbors came to console him, saying, "Oh, what terrible luck." The old farmer simply replied, "Bad luck, good luck, who knows?" A week later, his horse returned, and it brought with it a herd of magnificent wild horses. The neighbors came to celebrate, exclaiming, "What wonderful luck!" The farmer shrugged and said, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" The farmer's son then tried to tame one of the wild horses, but he was thrown from it, and his leg was badly broken. The neighbors again came to offer their sympathy. "How awful! This is truly bad luck," the farmer calmly replied. "Bad luck, good luck, who knows?" A few weeks after that, the emperor's army marched into the village, conscripting every able-bodied young man for a bloody war from which few were expected to return. They saw the farmer's son with his broken leg, and they left him behind. The neighbors, overwhelmed with relief for him, said, "You were right. Your son being hurt was the greatest luck of all." The old farmer, watching the soldiers march away, simply said once more, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" This story teaches us that our fixed labels of good and bad are meaningless when applied to a reality that is constantly in motion. We see only a tiny snapshot of a vast, unfolding process. What appears to be a disaster today may be the seed of a great blessing tomorrow. What feels like a victory today may lead to unforeseen challenges. Wisdom lies not in judging the events, but in accepting the flow with a calm and open mind. We often think of impermanence as a sad or frightening idea, but if you look at it more deeply, you will see that it is the very thing that makes life beautiful and meaningful. If things were not impermanent, a seed could never grow into a flower, a wound could never heal, a misunderstanding between friends could never be resolved into a deeper connection. The suffering you feel right now could never pass. Impermanence is the engine of all growth, all healing, and all hope. A sunset is breathtaking, precisely because we know it is fleeting. We cherish the moments with those we love because we know that time is a precious, finite gift. This understanding does not have to lead to despair. Instead, it can lead to a profound sense of appreciation. It awakens us. Let this truth gently settle into your awareness now, this very moment. As you lie here, listening to these words, feeling the breath in your body, is unique. It has never happened before, and it will never happen again. This makes it infinitely precious. Contemplating our own impermanence is not a morbid exercise. It is a powerful catalyst for living a more authentic and loving life. When you know that your time, and everyone else's time, is limited, You have less patience for petty arguments, for holding grudges, for wasting your energy on things that do not matter. You are more inclined to forgive, more willing to speak words of love, more eager to simply be present with the people and the world around you. You begin to truly taste your food, to truly hear the music, to truly feel the warmth of your blanket, because you know that this experience is a fleeting gift. As we accept this truth, as we begin to relax and float in this great river of life, watching everything change, a very deep question naturally arises. If the river is always changing, and the person stepping into it is always changing, if our thoughts are constantly flowing, our feelings are always shifting, and the very cells of our body are in constant flux, then where is the solid, permanent, unchanging me that I believe myself to be, if everything I identify with is impermanent? What is this self that I spend so much time and energy defending and promoting? This profound inquiry leads us directly to the heart of one of the deepest and most liberating insights in all of Buddhist thought. It is an insight best explored through the story of a simple, empty boat as we float in this great, flowing river of life, watching the ever-changing landscape of our thoughts, feelings, and sensations. A profound question begins to surface from the depths. If everything is in constant motion, if the very cells of our body and the contents of our mind are in a state of perpetual flux, then where is the solid, continuous, unchanging me that I feel myself to be? What is this self that I spend so much of my life's energy protecting, promoting, and defending? The answer to this question is not a complex philosophical argument, but a simple story, a gentle parable that holds the key to a profound and lasting freedom. It is the story of the empty boat. The ancient Taoist sage, Chuang Tzu, tells of a man crossing a river in his small boat. It is a quiet, misty morning, and the man is at peace, enjoying the gentle rhythm of the water. Suddenly, out of the thick mist, another boat appears and collides sharply with his own. His peace is instantly shattered. A flash of hot anger rises in his chest. He opens his mouth and shouts across the water, "You fool, watch where you are going." He is filled with irritation and self-righteousness, ready for a confrontation. His ego, his sense of self, has been violated, and it demands justice. But as he glares at the other boat, he sees that there is no one in it. It is an empty boat, adrift on the current, carried by the whim of the river. In that moment of seeing, a complete transformation occurs. His anger, so solid and real just a second before, completely vanishes. It dissolves like the mist on the water. How can you be angry at an empty boat? It has no intention, no malice, no self to direct your anger toward. The event is no longer a personal affront. It is simply something that happened. The man calmly takes his oar, pushes the empty boat away, and continues on his journey, his peace restored, perhaps even deepened by the insight. The collision was the same. The jolt was the same. The only thing that changed was the man's perception of a someone in the other boat. This is the heart of the teaching. Nearly all of our anger, our hurt, our resentment, and our defensiveness does not come from the events of our lives themselves, but from our reaction to the imagined, solid self that we believe is behind them. When someone criticizes you, The words themselves are just vibrations in the air. Their power to hurt you comes entirely from your belief that there is a solid, malicious self behind those words, attacking the solid, vulnerable self that is you. When another driver cuts you off in traffic, your rage is directed at that idiot, that other ego. If a gust of wind blew a tree branch onto the road, you might be startled or delayed, but you would not feel the same personal, indignant anger. You would not shake your fist at the sky and curse the wind's arrogance. We live our lives in a sea crowded with other boats, and in our minds, every single one of them has a captain at the helm. We are constantly interpreting their intentions, judging their actions, and reacting to the ego we project onto them, all while fiercely defending the captain of our own vessel. This is an exhausting and stressful way to live. It is a life of perpetual conflict, of bracing for the next collision. But the wisdom of the empty boat invites us to look closer, both at the other boats and, most importantly, at our own. When we look deeply for this captain, this solid, unchanging self, what do we actually find? The Buddhist teachings suggest that what we call a self is not a single entity at all, but a temporary assembly of different, constantly changing processes. It's like looking at a car. We call it a car, but in reality, it is a collection of wheels, an engine, a chassis, seats, and glass. There is no separate carness apart from the parts. Similarly, what we call me is a bundle of 5 processes. There is the body, this physical form, which is constantly aging and changing. There are feelings, which, as we've seen, are like guests, constantly coming and going. There are perceptions and thoughts, the ever-flowing river of our mind. There are our habits and intentions, which are conditioned and always in flux. And finally, there is consciousness, the simple awareness that experiences all these other things. When you search through this bundle of changing processes, you can never find a permanent, independent owner or a central CEO. The captain you are so busy defending is not there. The boat is empty. This is not a frightening or nihilistic thought. In fact, it is the most liberating realization possible. When you begin to understand this, even just a little, the entire way you experience the world begins to soften. When someone says something critical, instead of feeling it as a personal attack, you can see it as their own empty boat, filled with its own thoughts and feelings, simply bumping into yours. It is the weather in their world, not a judgment on the core of your being, because there is no solid core to be judged. The sting of criticism lessens dramatically. The need to be right in every argument begins to feel heavy and unnecessary. Why defend a position so fiercely when you know that your own opinions are just part of a changing mental stream? Holding on to resentment becomes almost impossible. How can you hold a grudge against an empty boat? It is like being angry at the wind for blowing. You see that the other person's harmful action came from their own pain, their own ignorance, their own turbulent inner weather. You can still protect yourself. You can still set boundaries, but the corrosive, personal bitterness has nowhere to land. You are free from the poison of resentment. This is the freedom of the empty boat. It is the relief of putting down a heavy burden, the burden of me. The burden of having to be someone special, of having to be right, of having to be liked. of having to protect your fragile ego from the bumps and scrapes of life. When you realize that your boat is empty, the captain can finally take a rest. He can lie down, look at the clouds passing in the sky, and enjoy the journey. There is no need to be on constant alert. There is nothing to defend. And when this happens, when the hard, defensive walls of the self begin to dissolve, a new feeling emerges naturally from within. When you stop seeing the world as a collection of separate, competing egos, and instead see a vast ocean of interconnected, flowing, empty boats, all subject to the same currents of life. A feeling of kinship arises. The defensiveness of the ego is replaced by the open heart of understanding. This natural warmth, this radiance that shines outward when the self is no longer the center of the universe, is the dawn of true compassion. It is the practice of learning to shine like the sun, offering your warmth unconditionally to all beings, because you recognize them and yourself in each other. As the hard, defensive walls of the self begin to soften, as we learn to see ourselves and others as interconnected, empty boats adrift on the same great river of life, a new space opens up within us. The energy that was once consumed by protecting and promoting the ego is now liberated, and into this new, open space, a gentle warmth can begin to grow. This warmth, this natural radiance of the heart when it is no longer constricted by fear and self-interest, is known in the ancient Pali language as metta. It is often translated as loving kindness. To understand metta, imagine the sun in the sky. The sun does not choose where it will shine. It does not withhold its light from the thorny weeds while giving it only to the beautiful flowers. It does not shine on the virtuous person and cast a shadow on the thief. It simply radiates its warmth and light unconditionally upon everything and everyone, without judgment, without preference. This is the quality of metta. It is not the possessive, conditional love of romance. It is not pity, which often contains a subtle sense of superiority. Metta is simply unconditional goodwill. It is the sincere, heartfelt wish for all beings to be happy and free from the causes of suffering. It is a radical practice of opening the heart, training it to become like the sun, offering its warmth freely in all directions. In our ordinary lives, our hearts operate more like a spotlight, shining our affection only on a select few people whom we like or who are useful to us, while leaving most others in the dark, or even casting a glare of aversion on those we dislike. The practice of metta meditation is a way to change the spotlight into a sun. It is a gentle, systematic training of the heart to expand its circle of care until it includes all of life. The journey of metta, however, begins in a place that for many of us is the most difficult. It begins with ourselves. We cannot offer water to a thirsty world from an empty well. We must first learn to fill our own hearts with this unconditional warmth. For many of us, our inner landscape is harsh and critical. We speak to ourselves with a cruelty we would never direct at a friend. So the first and most essential step in this practice is to turn the warm light of metta inward. As you rest here, allow your awareness to settle in the area of your heart. There is no need to force anything. Simply bring a gentle attention to your own being. And then, like planting a soft seed in fertile soil, you can silently repeat a few simple phrases. May I be happy. May I be safe from inner and outer harm. May I be healthy and strong. May I live my life with ease. You are not demanding these things. You are simply offering the gentle wish. You are tending to your own heart, offering it the kindness it has longed for. At first, this may feel awkward or even undeserved. If so, that is all right. Simply continue to repeat the phrases gently, like a soft rain falling on dry ground. May I be happy. May I be safe. Allow the warmth of this intention to slowly permeate your being. This is the foundation upon which all other love is built. Now, from this foundation of self-acceptance, let us begin to expand the circle of warmth. Bring to mind someone for whom you feel easy and uncomplicated love. It could be a dear friend, a parent, a child, or even a beloved pet. Picture them in your mind's eye. See them smiling and happy. And now, direct the warm light from your heart to them, repeating the phrases, may you be happy, may you be safe, may you be healthy and strong, may you live your life with ease. Feel the natural flow of your affection moving towards them, wishing them everything good, without any thought of what you might get in return. Next, we stretch the muscle of the heart a little further. Bring to mind a neutral person, someone you see often, but for whom you have no strong feelings, positive or negative. Perhaps it is the person who delivers your mail, a cashier at the grocery store, or someone you pass on your daily commute. We so often see these people as mere functions, not as full human beings. Now, see them in your mind and recognize that just like you, they have a heart. Just like you, they wish to be happy and to avoid suffering. And so, you offer them the same phrases. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. In doing this, you are breaking down the artificial barriers of indifference and recognizing your shared humanity. And now, the most challenging and transformative step. Gently, bring to mind someone with whom you have difficulty. It is wise to start with someone only mildly irritating, not the person who has caused you the deepest pain. See them in your mind. Acknowledge the feelings of hurt or anger that may arise, and recognize that holding on to this bitterness is like holding a hot coal, hoping the other person will get burned. It only harms you. The practice of offering metta to a difficult person is not about condoning their actions or forcing a reconciliation. It is about freeing your own heart from the prison of resentment. And so, as an act of liberation for yourself, you offer the phrases, may you be happy, may you be free from your own suffering, the very suffering that causes you to act in harmful ways. May you be safe, may you be at peace. If this feels too difficult, that is perfectly fine. You can return your attention to yourself or to your loved one at any time. The goal is simply the intention, the courageous attempt to soften your own heart. Finally, we let the circle become boundless. Imagine the light and warmth from your heart expanding outwards in all directions. It fills the room you are in, encompassing anyone who is near. It expands through your neighborhood, your city, your country. It flows out across the entire planet, touching every man, woman, and child. It includes all the animals, the birds in the air, the creatures in the sea, every living being. May all beings everywhere be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be free. May all beings live with ease. You become a sun, radiating unconditional goodwill to all of life. Without exception, this practice is not just a passive, gentle wish. It is a source of immense power and protection. There is a story from the life of the Buddha that illustrates this. The Buddha's jealous cousin, in an attempt to harm him, got a ferocious war elephant named Nalagiri, drunk on palm wine, and set it loose on the narrow street where the Buddha was walking. The people screamed and fled in terror as the massive, enraged animal charged, its trunk raised to kill. The Buddha's attendant, Ananda, I tried to stand in front of him, but the Buddha told him to step aside. He did not run. He did not prepare to fight. He simply stood still, his heart completely open, and radiated a powerful, unwavering field of pure metta directly at the charging elephant. As the furious beast entered this invisible field of loving kindness, a miracle occurred. Its frenzied charge slowed to a walk. The rage in its eyes softened. It lowered its trunk, approached the Buddha, and knelt down before him as if in reverence. The untamable rage of the elephant was completely subdued by the silent, invincible power of a loving heart. The raging elephant is a symbol for the powerful, destructive energies we encounter in life, our own anger, our own fear, and the hostility we may receive from others. Metta is the force that can tame them. It is the direct antidote to the poisons of the mind. It dissolves anger, it melts jealousy, and it soothes fear by connecting us to the whole of life. It is a practice that heals us from the inside out and prepares the ground of our heart for its twin virtue. For while metta is the wish for all beings to be happy, its sister quality is what arises in our heart when we see that they are not. This responsive trembling of the heart in the face of suffering, this deep wish to help and to heal, is the great virtue of compassion, the warm, unconditional sunlight of loving kindness, or metta, expands from our hearts, wishing happiness and well-being for all. It is a beautiful and boundless aspiration, but what happens when this warm sunlight shines upon the inevitable realities of the world, upon the corners of life filled with pain, loss, and sorrow? What is the heart's response when it encounters not happiness, but its absence? This response, this natural trembling of an open heart in the presence of suffering, is the second great virtue of a liberated mind. It is called compassion, or karuna. If metta is the wish for all beings to find joy, karuna is the active, heartfelt wish for all beings to be free from their suffering. It is not pity, which looks down from a distance. It is not fear, which turns away. It is the willingness to move towards the pain, to be present with it, and to feel a sincere desire to see it alleviated. It is the recognition of our shared vulnerability, the understanding that the pain I see in you could just as easily be my own. It is the heart's echo, resonating with the cries of the world. There is a profound story from the life of the Buddha that reveals the true nature of wise compassion. A young woman named Kisa Gotami had a single infant son, whom she loved more than life itself. One day, the child fell ill and died. Kisa Gotami was utterly consumed by a grief so powerful that it bordered on madness. She refused to accept her son's death. She picked up his small, lifeless body and wandered from house to house, desperately begging everyone she met for a medicine that could bring him back. Some people mocked her, others turned away in sorrow, but all were powerless to help. Finally, a wise man, seeing her inconsolable pain, suggested she go and see the Buddha. She ran to the Buddha, laid her son at his feet, and pleaded with him to perform a miracle. The Buddha looked at her not with judgment, but with an ocean of compassion. He did not immediately lecture her on the truth of impermanence. He knew her heart was not ready to hear it. Instead, he met her in her world of magical thinking. He told her, "Yes, I can make a medicine for your son, but to do so, I need one special ingredient. You must go back into the village and bring me a single mustard seed from a house where no one, not a parent, not a child, not a servant has ever died." Filled with a surge of hope, Kisa Gautami rushed back to the village. She knocked on the first door. "The Buddha needs a mustard seed to heal my son. Can you spare one, of course?" The woman replied. As she was about to take it, Kisa Gautami asked the crucial question, "Has anyone in this house ever known death?" The woman's face fell. "Oh, my dear," she said, "the living are few, but the dead are many. I lost my husband just last year." So Kisa Gautami went to the next house, and the next, and the next. The story was always the same. Everyone was willing to give her a mustard seed, but every single family had been touched by death. One had lost a mother, another a brother, another a baby just like hers. As she went from door to door, a slow and profound transformation began to take place within her. Her sharp, isolating, personal grief began to dissolve into a vast, universal understanding of shared sorrow. She was not alone. Her pain was not unique. This experience of loss was a fundamental part of the human condition, a thread that connected her to every single person she met. The walls of her private agony crumbled, replaced by a deep sense of kinship with all of suffering humanity. Her heart broke open, not with despair, but with understanding. She returned to the Buddha, her quest for the magical seed unfulfilled, but her mind now peaceful. She understood the law of impermanence, not as a harsh doctrine, but as a shared truth. This is the nature of wise compassion. The Buddha did not perform an impossible miracle. Instead, he created the conditions for Kisa Gautami to find her own healing, her own wisdom. True compassion is not always about fixing the problem. It is about empowering others, guiding them with kindness and wisdom to find the strength within themselves to face their own suffering. It is also crucial to understand that compassion is not the same as being overwhelmed by pain. Sometimes, in our desire to help, we can drown in another person's sorrow. This is called empathic distress, and it is not helpful. When we are drowning, we cannot help someone else who is also drowning. We simply create two victims instead of one. Wise compassion, karuna, is different. It is balanced by a spacious equanimity. It is like a skilled surgeon who can operate on a grievous wound with a steady hand and a calm mind. The surgeon's calm does not mean she doesn't care. In fact, her calm is precisely what makes her effective. True compassion has the strength to be present with pain without being consumed by it. This compassionate presence does not always require grand actions. One of the most powerful and healing acts of compassion available to every single one of us is the practice of deep listening. When someone is in pain, they often do not need our advice or our solutions. They need a safe space to be heard. To offer someone our full, undivided, non-judgmental attention is an incredible gift. It means putting aside our own stories our own desire to interrupt or to fix, and simply becoming a receptive, loving presence for another person. As they speak, they begin to hear themselves. In the space of our quiet, compassionate listening, they can untangle their own knots and often find their own way forward. In a world full of noise and distraction, to be truly heard is to be truly healed. Never underestimate the power of your small, everyday acts. A kind word to a stressed-out parent, a patient smile for someone who is struggling, a simple text message to a friend to let them know you are thinking of them. These acts may seem insignificant, but they are the very fabric of compassion in action. They are like single drops of rain that, when joined together, can become a river of healing that nourishes the world. We never truly know the impact of our kindness. That one small gesture may be the one thing that helps a person get through a difficult day. It creates a ripple of warmth that spreads in ways we will never see. And so, we have cultivated metta, the sun-like wish for all to find happiness. We have explored karuna, the heart's tender, wise response to suffering. These two qualities create a profound capacity to love the world, but to keep our hearts balanced, to prevent our engagement with suffering from becoming heavy or leading to burnout, we need one more element. We need the ability to feel joy not only for ourselves, but also for others. We need the antidote to the poison of envy. This beautiful practice is called sympathetic joy. Having cultivated the sun-like warmth of loving kindness and the heart's tender response of compassion, we have learned to meet the world with a profound capacity for love. We have opened ourselves to both the joy and the sorrow of the shared human experience. But if we only focus on compassion, our journey can become heavy, weighed down by the immense suffering in the world. To maintain balance, to bring lightness and resilience to our open hearts, we must cultivate the third of these sublime states. This is the beautiful, liberating practice of sympathetic joy, or mudita. Mudita is the ability to feel genuine, selfless happiness for the happiness and success of others. It is the opposite of envy and jealousy. It is the heart's capacity to delight in the good fortune of another, to celebrate their victories as if they were our own. At first, this might seem like a minor or even a nice-to-have quality, but in reality, it is a key to unlocking a source of joy that is almost limitless. Think of it, our own personal moments of peak happiness are relatively rare and fleeting. If our happiness depends only on our own good fortune, we will spend much of our lives waiting. But good things are happening to other beings all over the world. At every single moment, a baby is being born, a student is graduating, a couple is falling in love, a team is winning a championship, someone is recovering from an illness. If we can train our hearts to connect with and share in that joy, we tap into an infinite reservoir. Our potential for happiness expands from the small pond of our own life to the vast ocean of collective human experience. The primary obstacle to this boundless joy is a poison that we all know well, the poison of envy. In a world that constantly encourages us to compare ourselves to others, envy is a common and corrosive form of suffering. We scroll through the curated lives of others online and see their perfect vacations, their beautiful families, their career successes, and we feel a painful pang in our own heart. It is a feeling of lack, of resentment, of bitterness. There is a powerful saying that describes this state perfectly. Envy is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. When we are envious, we are the only ones who suffer. The bitterness, the resentment, the feeling of being diminished, these feelings churn within our own minds and bodies, disturbing our own peace. The other person, the object of our envy, is usually completely unaware, enjoying their life, while we are trapped in a prison of our own making. Mudita is the direct and powerful antidote to this self-inflicted poison. It is the mental alchemy that transforms a moment of potential suffering into a moment of genuine happiness. Let us try this practice of alchemy now. Allow your mind to settle and bring to mind a person you are close to, someone you care about deeply. Now, remember a specific time when they experienced a great joy or a significant success. Perhaps it was their wedding day, the birth of their child, a long sought-after promotion, or the fulfillment of a lifelong dream. Instead of just seeing it from the outside, try to feel it from their perspective. Imagine the surge of happiness, the sense of accomplishment, the profound gratitude they must have felt in that moment. Let their joy resonate within you. Let their smile bring a smile to your own face. And as you hold this feeling, you can offer them these silent phrases. My friend, I am so happy for you. Your joy is my joy. May your happiness and your good fortune continue and grow. Feel the genuine warmth of celebration in your own heart. Notice how this feels so much lighter, so much more expansive than the constricted feeling of envy. We can stretch this muscle further. Think of an acquaintance, a colleague, or even a public figure whose success you have witnessed. Instead of seeing their achievements as a measure of your own shortcomings, reframe it. See their success as an inspiration, as a testament to what is possible for human beings. Offer them a silent wish of mudita. I rejoice in your success. May your gifts continue to unfold and bring benefit to many. With each practice, you are actively weakening the old, painful neural pathway of comparison and strengthening a new, joyful pathway of celebration. This practice is deepened when we contemplate the truth of our interconnectedness. Envy arises from the illusion of the separate self, the belief that we are isolated individuals competing for a limited supply of happiness and success. Mudita arises from the wisdom that sees we are all part of a vast, interconnected web. Another person's success is never truly separate from our own. When a scientist discovers a cure for a disease, her success is a success for all of humanity. When an artist creates a work of breathtaking beauty, its existence enriches the culture for everyone. When a member of our community thrives, the entire community is strengthened. From this perspective, another person's light does not diminish our own. It adds to the collective brightness of the world. A rising tide lifts all boats. To rejoice in another's good fortune is simply to recognize this fundamental truth of our shared existence. In the ancient Buddhist scriptures, it is said that our state of mind creates the world we inhabit. There is a story from the celestial realms that beautifully illustrates the power of mudita. In one of the heavenly worlds, there lived many devas, or radiant beings of light. One of these devas, however, had an aura that was exceptionally brilliant, far outshining all of his companions. The other devas, full of curiosity, asked him what extraordinary deeds he had performed in his past life on earth to have earned such a luminous form. Had he built great temples? Had he given away vast fortunes to the poor? The radiant diva smiled and replied that he had been just a simple man. He had not performed any grand, heroic acts, but he had cultivated one particular habit of the heart. whenever he saw or heard of another person doing something good, giving a gift, speaking a kind word, achieving success through honest effort, his heart would leap with genuine joy. He would praise them, celebrate them, and feel their happiness as if it were his own. He never felt a single moment of envy, only pure, selfless delight in the goodness and fortune of others. This constant practice of rejoicing, this inner state of luminous joy, was the sole cause of his brilliant, heavenly light. Mudita, then, is a practice that makes our very being more radiant. It fills us with light and costs us nothing. It frees us from the bitter poison of envy and connects us to the endless ocean of joy that exists in the world. So we have now explored three great pillars of a beautiful heart. Metta, loving kindness, which is the wish for all beings to be happy. Karuna, compassion, which is the heart's response to their suffering. And mudita, sympathetic joy, which is the heart's celebration of their happiness. These three pillars create a mind that is immeasurably kind, responsive, and joyful. But for this inner temple to be truly unshakable, to be able to withstand the winds of change and the inevitable storms of life, these three pillars must rest upon a fourth and final foundation. This foundation is a profound inner balance, a deep and spacious peace that is not swayed by gain or loss, praise or blame. This is the great entavus, stabilizing virtue of equanimity. We have walked through the beautiful gardens of the heart, cultivating three sublime qualities. We have learned to shine the unconditional sunlight of loving kindness. Metta, wishing for all beings to be happy. We have learned to feel the tender trembling of compassion. Karuna, responding to the suffering of the world with a wish to heal, and we have learned to taste the boundless delight of sympathetic joy. Mudita, celebrating the good fortune of others as our own. These three qualities create a heart that is immensely warm, engaged, and connected. They are the pillars of a beautiful inner temple. But for this temple to be truly unshakable, for it to withstand the fierce and unpredictable storms of life, these three pillars must rest upon a fourth and final foundation. This foundation is a state of profound inner balance. A deep, spacious, and unwavering peace. It is the great, stabilizing virtue of equanimity, or upekkha. There is a common misunderstanding that equanimity means indifference, apathy, or a cold detachment. This could not be further from the truth. Indifference is a form of aversion, a closing down of the heart. It says, I don't care. Equanimity, on the other hand, comes from a heart that is so open, so vast and courageous, that it is able to hold everything in life without being thrown off balance. It is the deepest form of care, a love so spacious that it does not get caught in the drama of wanting things to be different than they are. In life, we are constantly being blown about by what the Buddha called the 8 worldly winds. These are the pairs of opposites that define our human experience: pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and disrepute. The ordinary, untrained mind is like a single leaf, tossed about helplessly by these winds. When praise comes, we are inflated with pride. When blame comes, we are crushed with despair. When we gain something, we are ecstatic. When we lose it, we are heartbroken. Our inner peace is completely dependent on external conditions. The practice of equanimity is the cultivation of an inner stability so profound that it is not disturbed by these winds, no matter how fiercely they blow. Imagine your mind becoming a great and ancient mountain. It has been sitting on the earth for millennia. Fierce storms rage around it. The wind howls. Lightning cracks the sky, and torrential rains beat against its stony face. But does the mountain become agitated? Does it complain about the weather? No, the mountain simply sits, solid, grounded, and utterly present, allowing the storm to be what it is, knowing that the storm is a temporary event happening around it, not to its core being. On other days, the sun shines brightly, warming its slopes. A gentle breeze whispers through its trees. Does the mountain cling to this pleasant weather, fearing that it will end? No, it simply sits, experiencing the warmth and the light with the same quiet presence. The mountain embodies equanimity. It is the practice of developing this mountain-like quality in our own hearts. The ability to experience the storms of blame and loss, and the sunny days of praise and gain, with the same vast, unshakable calm. There is a classic Zen story about the master Hakuin that perfectly illustrates this mountain-like mind. Hakuin lived a simple life and was deeply respected for his wisdom and integrity. In the village nearby lived a beautiful young woman whose parents owned the food shop. One day, her parents discovered that she was pregnant. Furious, they demanded to know who the father was. The girl, terrified of revealing her young lover, named the Zen master Hakuin. The parents were outraged. They stormed to the temple, carrying the newborn baby. They screamed at Hakuin, "You are the father of this child. Your hypocrisy is disgusting." Hakuin's reputation was shattered in an instant as he listened to their accusations. His only response was a calm and simple, "Is that so?" He took the child from them. For the next year, his life changed completely. He was treated as a pariah. People who once revered him now scorned him. Yet he cared for the infant with immense tenderness, going from door to door to beg for milk and food for the child. 1 year later, the young mother could no longer bear her guilt. She confessed to her parents that the true father was a young man who worked at the fish market. Her parents were mortified. Overcome with shame and remorse, they rushed back to Hakuin, bowing low, apologizing profusely for their mistake, and asked for the child back. Hakuin listened to their frantic apologies, gently handed the healthy, happy child back to them, and his response was exactly the same. Quietly, he said, "Is that so?" Hakuin was the mountain. He was unmoved by the fierce storm of blame and the loss of his reputation. He was equally unmoved by the pleasant sunshine of being exonerated and praised for his compassion. His inner peace was not for sale. It did not depend on the opinions of others or the changing circumstances of his life. He was grounded in a peace that lay deeper than the worldly winds. This profound stability does not come from suppressing our feelings. It arises from deep wisdom. It is rooted in a clear understanding of impermanence. Hakuin knew that fame and blame are like passing clouds. They have no solid substance and are bound to change. Why become attached to them? It is also rooted in a deep understanding of karma, the law of cause and effect. He could see that the parents' anger and the girl's lie were the result of their own fear and suffering. It wasn't about him. Their reactions were their karma, not his. His own peace depended on his own skillful and compassionate response, not on their turmoil. This wisdom creates a space around events, allowing us to respond with clarity rather than react with blind emotion. This spacious equanimity is the great balancing force that holds the other three sublime states in harmony. It keeps loving kindness from turning into clinging attachment and grief. It keeps compassion from collapsing into overwhelming burnout or sorrow. It is the steady hand of the surgeon. It keeps sympathetic joy from becoming giddy excitement or a new form of attachment to vicarious pleasure. Equanimity is the vast, stable, open bowl that contains the other three qualities, allowing them to be offered wisely and without limit. It is the earth that supports the entire temple. With this complete and balanced heart, a heart that is loving, responsive, joyful, and unshakable, we are now fully prepared. We have established a firm and resilient foundation. From this place of strength and spaciousness, we are ready to turn our attention toward one of the most powerful and challenging energies we can experience, one of the hottest fires that can burn in the human mind. With the cool, clear-seeing quality of equanimity, we can now learn to work skillfully and compassionately with the intense, fiery energy of anger, resting on the unshakable foundation of a balanced heart. A heart made spacious by loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. We now have the strength and the stability to turn towards one of life's most challenging and powerful energies. We can now look directly into the fire. This is the fire of anger. In our culture, we are often taught to either suppress this fire, pretending it isn't there, or to unleash it in a destructive explosion. Both paths lead to more suffering. Tonight, we will explore a third way, a middle path of wisdom that seeks not to destroy the fire, but to understand its nature and transform its energy from a destructive force into a source of warmth and light. First, we must understand that anger, at its core, is simply energy. Like fire itself, it is not inherently good or evil. A fire can burn down a forest, or it can cook our food, warm our home, and light our way in the dark. The energy itself is neutral. Its effect depends entirely on how we handle it. The problem is not the arising of anger, which is a natural human response, but our habitual, unconscious reaction to it. Our habit is to identify with the anger, to become the fire, and in doing so, we inevitably burn ourselves and others. The Buddha used a powerful image to describe this process. He said that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Think of this now. When you are caught in a state of anger or resentment, who is truly suffering in that moment? You may be replaying an old hurt over and over in your mind. A conversation, an injustice. Your body is tense. Your heart is beating fast. Stress hormones are flooding your system. You are physically and mentally bathing in the toxins of your own anger. The person who is the object of your anger may be miles away, sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of the turmoil you are putting yourself through. You are holding the hot coal, and it is searing your own hand, your own heart, your own mind. The first step in working with anger is to recognize this simple, practical truth. Letting go of anger is not something you do for the other person. It is an act of profound self-compassion. It is the decision to finally put down the hot coal. So how do we do this? How do we handle this fire when it flares up? The path is one of mindfulness. It is a simple, three-step dance of recognition, acceptance, and care. The next time you feel the heat of anger beginning to rise, first, simply recognize its presence. Instead of being swept away by the story of how dare they, you create a little space by acknowledging to yourself, the energy of anger is here. I feel anger arising in me. In this moment of recognition, you are no longer the anger itself. You have become the observer of the anger. You are the calm space in which the fire is burning. Second, bring your awareness directly to the physical sensations of the anger in your body. Where is this fire located? Is it a tightening in your jaw, a burning sensation in your chest or stomach? Are your fists clenched? Is there heat in your face by focusing on the raw, physical energy? You unhook yourself from the mental story that is feeding the flames. The story is what keeps the anger going. The sensations are just energy, and like all energy, they will eventually pass if you don't keep adding fuel to them. Third, you use your breath to soothe the fire. Your breath is your anchor and your cooling balm. You can practice this simple meditation, breathing in. I know that anger is here. Breathing out. I smile gently to my anger. This smile is not one of amusement, but of gentle acceptance. Like a mother smiling at her crying child, you are not fighting the anger. You are acknowledging it with kindness. Breathing in. I calm the fire of anger in me. Breathing out. I release the tension. With every conscious out-breath, you imagine the heat and tension leaving your body, creating more space, more coolness, more peace. The great meditation master Thich Nhat Hanh teaches us to treat our anger like a crying baby. When a baby in our care begins to cry, we don't ignore it and lock it in another room that is suppression. And we don't start screaming at everyone around us because the baby is crying, that is venting. Both of these actions only make the situation worse. A wise parent will gently pick up the crying baby, hold it tenderly, and just be present with it. This is the first step with our anger. We pick it up by acknowledging its presence with mindfulness. We hold it with the tenderness of our non-judgmental awareness. As we hold the baby, we soothe it with our calm energy and our rhythmic breathing. This is the act of using our breath to calm the physical energy of the anger. Once the baby has stopped screaming and has settled into a gentle sob, the wise parent does something else. They look deeply to find out why the baby is crying. Is the baby hungry? Is its diaper wet? Is a pin pricking it somewhere? This is the final and most transformative step in working with our anger. Once the initial heat has subsided through our mindful breathing, we can look deeply into the heart of our anger and ask, what does my anger need? What is it trying to protect? When we look with a calm and curious mind, we almost always find that anger is a secondary emotion. It is a protective shield covering something more vulnerable, more tender underneath. Very often, underneath anger, we find the soft, aching presence of hurt. We get angry because it feels more powerful and less vulnerable than admitting we have been wounded. Underneath anger, we may also find fear. Anger flares up when we feel our security, our beliefs, or our sense of self is being threatened. And sometimes, underneath anger, we find a deep sense of injustice, a feeling that a fundamental rule of fairness has been violated. By looking deeply, we discover the root of our suffering. We find the real reason the baby is crying. And when we know the real reason, we can offer ourselves what we truly need. If the root is hurt, We can offer ourselves the balm of self-compassion. If the root is fear, we can offer ourselves reassurance and safety. If the root is injustice, we can use the energy of the anger, now transformed, to take wise and constructive action in the world. This is how we transform the fire. We don't extinguish it. We use its energy for illumination, to see ourselves more clearly and to act more wisely as we learn to take care of our own anger with this kind of tenderness and wisdom. The hard, blaming ground of our heart begins to soften. We see that our anger primarily harms us, and that it often arises from our own unhealed wounds. This deep understanding, this act of taking responsibility for our own inner fire, naturally prepares us for one of the most powerful and liberating acts a human being can perform. It opens the door to an action that truly puts down the hot coal, freeing us from the past and allowing us to walk into the future with a light and open heart. This is the profound gift of forgiveness. Having learned to hold the fiery energy of our own anger with tenderness, to see it not as an enemy, but as a crying child in need of care, we arrive at a threshold. We stand before a door that leads out of the dark, a cramped room of the past, and into the bright, open space of the present. The key that unlocks this door is one of the most misunderstood, yet most profoundly liberating of all human capacities. It is the gift of forgiveness. We often think of forgiveness as a gift we give to someone else, a moral duty we must perform. But its true power lies in a different direction. To not forgive is to be chained to the person or the event that caused you pain. You are forced to drag that heavy weight with you. Everywhere you go, it is like carefully preserving a wound, reopening it each day to make sure it still hurts, never allowing it to heal. The person who harmed you may be long gone. They may be living their life completely unaware of your continued suffering, but you keep them alive in your mind, allowing them to injure you again and again. To live with resentment is to live in a prison of the past, and you are both the inmate and the jailer. Forgiveness is the act of deciding to set yourself free. It is crucial to understand what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is not condoning. It is not saying that what happened was acceptable or okay. It is not forgetting a harmful act. Nor is it necessarily about reconciling with the person who harmed you. You can forgive someone and still choose never to see them again. Forgiveness has very little to do with the other person. It is a profound act of self-love. It is the conscious and courageous decision to release the hot coal of anger and bitterness from your own hand. It is the choice to stop drinking the poison of resentment. It is the declaration that you will no longer allow the events of the past to control the peace of your present. It is the gift of freedom that you give, first and foremost, to yourself. There is a beautiful Zen story that illustrates this perfectly. Two monks, an elder and a junior, were on a long journey. Their path led them to a wide river with a swift current. On the bank stood a beautiful young woman in a fine silk kimono, hesitating, afraid to cross for fear of ruining her clothes and being swept away. The monks' vows strictly forbade them from touching a woman. The junior monk, rigid in his observance of the rule, walked past her without a word. The elder monk, however, saw her distress. He walked over to her, wordlessly lifted her into his arms, carried her across the turbulent river, and gently set her down on the other side. He then bowed and continued his journey. The junior monk was in a state of shock and outrage. For the next several hours, as they walked, He stewed in a silent fury. He replayed the scene over and over in his mind. How could he do that? He broke our sacred vows. It's a disgrace. Finally, unable to contain himself any longer, he burst out, "Brother, I cannot believe what you did. You touched a woman, you carried her, you have brought shame upon us." The elder monk listened patiently to the tirade, and when the younger one had finally run out of steam, he looked at him with gentle eyes and said, "Brother, I left the woman by the river hours ago. Are you still carrying her? We are so often like that younger monk. Someone has wronged us. An event has hurt us. And long after it is over, we continue to carry it in our minds. We are weighed down not by the event itself, but by our mental replay of it, by our judgment, our anger, our resentment. Forgiveness is the simple, liberating act of leaving the woman by the river. It is putting down the heavy burden that we, and only we, have chosen to carry. This act of forgiveness flows in two essential directions. The first is forgiving others. As you rest here, you can gently bring to mind someone whose actions have caused you pain. There is no need to force anything. Simply acknowledge the hurt that is there. See the hot coal of resentment you have been holding. And then, for your own sake, for the sake of your own peace, you can form a gentle intention. For my own healing, I choose to begin the process of letting you go. I will no longer allow you to occupy my mind and disturb my peace. I release you from my anger. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve to be free. The second direction, which is often far more difficult, is forgiving ourselves. We can be our own most relentless critics, holding on to guilt and shame for past mistakes for decades. We carry our past selves around like criminals, constantly putting them on trial for things they did with a level of wisdom and understanding that was far less than what we have today. This too is a heavy burden. This too is a hot coal. So now, you can offer this gift to yourself. Bring to mind a mistake from your past that you still feel shame about. Acknowledge that at that time, you acted from the level of consciousness you had. You did not know then what you know now. If you had, you would have acted differently. See that past version of yourself with the same compassion you would offer a dear friend. You might even place a hand over your own heart and silently offer these words: I did the best I could with the understanding I had at the time. I am still learning. For my actions and their consequences, I forgive myself. I release myself from the burden of this shame. I allow myself to be worthy of peace. It is important to remember that forgiveness is not an event. It is a process. It is not always like flipping a switch. Sometimes, it is more like the slow melting of a glacier. It can happen in layers. You might forgive someone 10% today, and a little more next week. It is a practice of returning, again and again, to the intention of letting go. Some days, you will wake up and find you are carrying the woman by the river again. The practice then is simply to notice it without judgment, and to gently put her down once more. Each time you do this, you are choosing freedom. Each time, the grip of the past weakens, and the light of the present shines a little brighter. As we learn to put down these heavy burdens of the past, our minds become clearer, our hearts become lighter. The ghosts of yesterday no longer have power over us. This profound release allows us to show up more fully for our lives right now. And from this place of clear presence, we can begin to refine how we create our world in each moment. we can turn our attention to the immense creative and sometimes destructive power of our words. This leads us to the gentle and mindful practice of tending the garden of our speech. Having emptied our hearts of old resentments through the grace of forgiveness, we find ourselves standing in the clear, bright light of the present moment. The ground of our mind has been cleared, and now the question becomes, what will we plant in this fertile soil? Every day, with every word we speak, we are planting seeds. We are planting seeds in the minds of others, and we are planting seeds in our own pain. Our speech is a form of creation. With our words, we can cultivate a garden of flowers, a place of beauty, trust, and healing. Or, with careless, unconscious speech, we can sow a field of thorny weeds, a place of conflict, misunderstanding, and pain. The practice of right speech is the art of learning how to tend this garden with wisdom and care. We often treat our words as if they are cheap and inconsequential, tossing them about without considering their effect. But words are vessels of immense power. They can begin wars and they can end them. They can build a bridge of connection between two souls, or they can erect a wall of separation. A single harsh word can echo in someone's mind for years, while a single word of genuine encouragement can give them the strength to persevere through hardship. The words we speak do not simply vanish into the air. They create ripples. They shape our relationships. They define our character. And most importantly, they condition our own minds. When we speak with anger, we are watering the seed of anger within us. When we speak with kindness, we are nourishing the seed of kindness in a very real way. We talk our world into being. Learning to speak with mindful intention is therefore not a superficial polish, but a profound practice of cultivating inner peace and a more beautiful world. The path of right speech can be understood as passing through 4 gates of skillful communication. These are not rigid rules, but gentle reminders that guide us from reactive speech to wise and compassionate speech. The first gate is speaking what is true. This is the foundation of all healthy communication. It means abstaining from lies, from exaggeration, from deception. When we lie, we create a stressful division between our inner reality and our outer expression. We have to remember our lies and live in fear of being discovered. It is an exhausting way to live. When we commit to telling the truth, we cultivate a deep sense of personal integrity and peace. Our inner and outer worlds are in harmony. The second gate is abstaining from divisive speech. This is the gate that protects community and connection. It means we refrain from slander, from backbiting, and from gossip that is intended to set one person against another. It can be tempting to engage in gossip. It can create a false sense of intimacy with the person we are talking to, but it is a poison. It erodes trust and creates an atmosphere of suspicion and negativity. The aim of right speech is to connect and to heal, not to separate and to wound. We use our words to build bridges, not walls. The third gate is refraining from harsh speech. Words spoken in anger, insults, verbal abuse, cruel sarcasm. These are like stones thrown at another person's heart. They cause genuine injury, but they also harden our own hearts. When we make a habit of harsh speech, we are practicing cruelty, and our capacity for gentleness and kindness withers. The practice here is to cultivate a speech that is gentle, courteous, and pleasant to the ear. even when we must speak of difficult things. The fourth gate is abstaining from idle chatter. This does not mean we must be somber and silent all the time. It simply means that we learn to value both sound and silence. Much of our speech is just noise, a way to fill empty space, a distraction from the present moment. It is gossip about people we don't know, complaining about things we cannot change, or simply talking for the sake of talking. Right speech is intentional speech. It has a purpose, whether that purpose is to inform, to connect, to heal, or to bring joy by speaking less. We often find that our words become more meaningful and more powerful. This can seem like a lot to remember. Thankfully, there is a simple and beautiful practice known as the triple filter test. Before you speak, you can let your words pass through 3 golden gates. At the first gate, ask yourself, is it true if you know it to be false? Then let the thought dissolve. If it is true, you may proceed to the second gate. At the second gate, ask yourself, is it necessary or is it beneficial? Is there a kind and useful purpose in saying this now? If not, let it rest in the peace of silence. If it is true and necessary, you approach the final gate. At the third gate, ask yourself, is it kind if the words are not kind? Perhaps you can find a gentler way to express your truth. Or perhaps this is not the right time to say it. If what you are about to say is true, necessary, and kind, then you have found a word worth speaking, a flower worth planting in the garden of the world. The power of this practice is shown in a story about the Buddha. A man who was very angry with the Buddha's teachings came to confront him. He stood before the Buddha and unleashed a long and vicious torrent of insults and abuse. The Buddha did not argue. He did not defend himself. He simply sat in complete silence, radiating a palpable sense of peace and compassion. And he listened. He listened until the man had completely exhausted his anger and had fallen silent. Then the Buddha spoke, his voice calm and gentle. "Young men," he said, "if you buy a beautiful gift for someone, and you go to their home and offer it to them, but they do not accept your gift, to whom does the gift belong?" The man, taken aback by the strange question, replied, "Well, if they don't accept it, then it still belongs to me." The Buddha nodded and smiled. "Exactly," he said, "and so it is with your anger. You have come here and offered it to me, but I do not accept it." This story teaches us 2 profound lessons. First, we are not obligated to receive the verbal poison that others may try to give us. We have the power to let it remain with them. And second, it shows the immense power of what is called noble silence. Sometimes, the most compassionate, skillful, and powerful thing we can do is to say nothing at all. Silence can be a space for anger to exhaust itself. It can be a space of deep listening that allows another to feel heard. It is the fertile, empty ground from which truly wise and kind speech can arise. Our words, then, are a powerful form of action, creating our reality moment by moment. As we learn to speak with more mindfulness and care, this same quality of harmlessness and benefit naturally begins to flow into all of our other actions. The way we tend the garden of our speech is the way we must learn to tend the garden of our lives. This brings us to the path of walking gently upon the earth, the practice of right action and right livelihood. The lightness and clarity that come from forgiveness clear a space within us, we are freed from the heavy chains of the past, and we can stand fully in the clean air of the present moment. From this place of presence, we can now look at how we move through the world. Our words, as we have seen, are a powerful form of action, but our physical actions create ripples that are just as profound. Every step we take, every gesture we make, leaves an imprint. Imagine your life as a walk across a vast, green lawn. Are you leaving behind heavy, trampling footprints that crush the grass? Or are your steps so light and mindful that the blades of grass spring back up behind you, unharmed? This is the essence of the path of right action and right livelihood, the practice of walking gently upon the earth. Right action is the expression of a heart that wishes no harm. It is a commitment to move through life as a source of safety and peace, not as a source of fear or pain. In its most fundamental form, it is guided by three principles of harmlessness. The first is to abstain from taking life, to protect beings from violence. This arises from a deep well of compassion. It is the recognition that every living thing, from the smallest insect to the largest mammal, shares with us the same fundamental desire to live and to avoid pain. To practice this is to become a protector of life, a safe harbor in a sometimes dangerous world. The second principle is to abstain from taking what is not freely given. This is the practice of respecting the belongings of others, of living with honesty and integrity. Stealing, in all its forms, arises from a mind of lack and greed. It creates a world of suspicion, a world of locks and alarms. To live with integrity, to be a person whose word is trustworthy and whose actions are transparent, is to cultivate a deep inner peace and to help build a society based on mutual respect and trust. The third principle is to abstain from sexual misconduct. This is the practice of honoring our own bodies and the bodies, relationships, and hearts of others. It is about channeling the powerful energy of human connection in ways that are based on kindness, respect, and consent, rather than on exploitation, greed, or causing harm to existing commitments. It is about bringing mindfulness and care to one of the most intimate and vulnerable areas of our lives. These are not restrictive rules designed to diminish our joy. They are trainings in freedom, freedom from guilt, freedom from causing harm, and freedom to live a simple, uncomplicated life of peace. These principles of harmlessness then extend into the area of our lives where we spend most of our waking hours, our work. The practice of right livelihood asks us to earn our living in a way that does not bring harm to ourselves or to other beings. On a basic level, this means avoiding professions that are directly built on violence, deception, or exploitation, such as trading in weapons, trafficking in harmful substances, or engaging in fraudulent schemes. But for most of us, the practice is more subtle. It is about how we engage with our work, whatever it may be. We live in a culture that tries to separate our work life from our real life. We put on a mask to go to work, and we imagine that our spiritual practice is something we do only in the evenings or on weekends. But this is an illusion. Our practice is our life, all of it. The workplace is one of the richest and most challenging fields for practice we could ever ask for. Can you practice patience when a colleague is difficult? Can you practice compassion when a customer is upset? Can you practice integrity when faced with a temptation to cut corners? Can you bring a sense of mindful presence to your tasks, rather than just rushing through them with a mind full of resentment? How we work, how we interact with our colleagues, how we conduct our business. This is our spiritual path. To see our work not as a distraction from our practice, but as the very arena of our practice, is a transformative shift in perspective. Every action, whether at home or at work, is a seed we plant. This is the simple, natural law of karma. Karma is not a system of cosmic reward and punishment from an external judge. It is more like the law of agriculture, or the law of echoes. If you shout angry words into a mountain valley, the echo that returns to you is one of anger. If you sing a song of love, the echo that comes back is love. In the same way, every intentional action plants a seed in the soil of our mind. An act driven by generosity strengthens the habit of generosity within us. An act driven by impatience nourishes the seed of impatience. We are, in every moment, shaping our own character. We are conditioning our own future happiness or suffering. When we walk gently on the grass, we are not only protecting the grass, but we are also becoming a more gentle person. There is a story from the Taoist tradition that illustrates the profound importance of our state of mind during our actions. A king went to see his butcher, a man renowned for his incredible skill. The king watched, mesmerized, as the butcher carved up an ox. His movements were not clumsy or violent. They were as fluid and graceful as a dance. His knife seemed to find every empty space, gliding through the joints and sinews, never striking a bone. The king asked him, "How have you achieved such incredible skill?" The butcher laid down his knife and replied, "What your servant loves is the Tao, which goes beyond mere skill. When I first began, all I saw was the ox. After 3 years, I no longer saw the whole ox. And now, I meet it with my spirit and not with my eyes. My senses stop and my spirit is free to move. I follow the natural contours, and my knife finds the great hollows and the hidden openings. I have used this knife for 19 years, and its blade is still as sharp as if it were fresh from the whetstone." This story reveals a profound truth. Even in a profession that seems to be about dismemberment and death, the butcher was able to work with a mind that was completely free of hatred, greed, or even delight. His mind was still, spacious, and completely absorbed in the natural flow of his task. He was not harming his own mind with his work. This teaches us that the quality of our awareness during our actions is as important, if not more important, than the actions themselves. It is possible to bring a state of meditative peace to any task, to walk this path consistently, to tend the garden of our actions and our speech with unwavering care, requires more than just a good intention. It is easy to be kind and mindful when we are well rested and life is going our way. But what about when we are tired, stressed, discouraged, or provoked? To maintain our wholesome actions through all of life's seasons, we need to learn how to apply our energy in a wise and balanced way. We need a steady, gentle persistence. This brings us to the crucial and practical art of right effort, the path of walking gently upon the earth, of tending the garden of our speech and actions. Requires a quiet energy. It is easy to be skillful when we feel rested and our life is in balance. But what happens when we are tired? When we feel discouraged? When the winds of life blow fiercely against us? To maintain our course, to continue cultivating a life of peace and harmlessness, we need more than just a good intention. We need to learn how to apply our energy wisely. This is the art of right effort. The word effort in our culture often conjures images of struggle, of gritting our teeth, of forcing things to happen through sheer willpower. This is not the kind of effort we are talking about here. Straining and struggling only lead to tension and burnout. Right effort is a different quality of energy altogether. It is wise, balanced, and sustainable. It is not the frantic energy of pushing a river, but the skillful energy of a sailor who sets the sail to catch the wind. It is the joy of cultivation, not the stress of construction. The classic fable of the tortoise and the hare is a perfect illustration of the difference between right effort and wrong effort. The hare is a symbol of wrong effort. He is arrogant, relying on his natural talent. His energy is explosive and impressive, but it is applied in short, inconsistent bursts. He is easily distracted by the world around him, and so complacent in his own ability that he feels he can afford to take a nap. His effort, while intense, is driven by ego and is utterly unsustainable. The tortoise, on the other hand, is the embodiment of right effort. He has no impressive talent for speed. He is humble and realistic about the journey ahead. His energy is not explosive. It is gentle, steady, and unwavering. He is not distracted. He does not compare himself to the hare. He simply puts one foot in front of the other, again and again, with a calm and patient persistence. In the great marathon of life and spiritual practice, it is the slow, steady, joyful effort of the tortoise that will always reach the destination, while the frantic, ego-driven sprints of the hare lead only to exhaustion and defeat. Right effort is tortoise energy. It is the gentle application of our will, day after day. This wise and gentle effort can be understood as the four great tasks of a mindful gardener tending to the garden of the mind. The unwholesome states, like greed, anger, and delusion, are the weeds. They often grow effortlessly and, if left untended, too will choke out all the beautiful plants. The wholesome states, like generosity, kindness, and wisdom, are the flowers and nourishing vegetables. They require our conscious care to grow and flourish. The work of the gardener, the practice of right effort, is fourfold. The first effort is to prevent the arising of unwholesome states that have not yet arisen. This is the proactive work of the wise gardener. The gardener knows the conditions that allow weeds to grow: untended soil, too much moisture in the wrong place. In the same way, we learn to recognize the conditions that give rise to our own inner weeds. We might know that when we are exhausted, the weed of anger sprouts easily. So, right effort is taking care to get enough rest. We might know that scrolling through certain social media feeds plants the seeds of envy and comparison. So, right effort is choosing to limit our exposure to that toxic soil. This is not about avoidance out of fear, but about wisely protecting the peace and beauty of our garden. The second effort is to abandon the unwholesome states that have already arisen. No matter how diligent we are, weeds will still sprout. A thought of greed, a flicker of jealousy, a surge of irritation will appear. Our habitual reaction is often to get angry at ourselves for having the weed, but this is just planting more weeds. The skillful gardener does not scold the garden. They simply see the weed, acknowledge it. There is the weed of impatience, and then, without any drama or self-criticism, they gently pull it out from the root. In our practice, this means we mindfully recognize the unwholesome state, and we let it go. We relax the body. We return our attention to our breath. We consciously turn our mind towards something more wholesome. We simply stop watering the weeds. The third effort is to cultivate the wholesome states that have not yet arisen. This is the joyful work of planting new seeds. If we want a garden full of flowers, we can't just pull weeds. We have to actively plant flower seeds. In the same way, we actively create time and space in our lives to cultivate goodness. We choose to read an inspiring book. We listen to a talk that nourishes our wisdom. We spend time in nature to cultivate a sense of awe. We actively practice loving kindness meditation to water the seed of metta in our heart. We consciously look for things to be grateful for. We are deliberately planting and nurturing the seeds of the beautiful qualities we wish to see grow in our lives. The fourth effort is to maintain the wholesome states that have already arisen. When a beautiful flower of peace or a moment of genuine joy blooms in our garden, our work is not done. We must learn to maintain and protect it. We don't take it for granted. When a feeling of calm arises, we savor it. We notice it fully. We reflect on the conditions that helped it to arise, so that we can recreate them in the future. We protect this precious flower from being trampled by distraction or choked out by the sudden sprouting of a weed of negativity. We cherish and nurture the goodness that is already present. This is the path of right effort. It is the steady, patient, and often joyful work of the tortoise, of the gardener. It is the gentle and continuous application of our energy towards what is healing and beautiful. It is not a grim struggle, but a loving cultivation. It is the understanding that creating a peaceful mind and a compassionate world is the most worthwhile work we can ever do. But how does this gardener know which plants are the flowers and which are the weeds? How do they notice a tiny weed just as it begins to sprout? How do they remember to water the flowers when the sun is hot? All of this skillful, diligent work depends on one crucial, overarching faculty. It requires an intimate, moment-to-moment awareness of the garden's landscape, the ability to see things clearly, just as they are. This constant, non-judgmental knowing is the very heart of the entire path. It is the essential practice of right mindfulness, the diligent work of the gardener, the wise and gentle application of our effort. Depends entirely on one essential human faculty, the ability to pay attention. How do we know which thoughts are weeds and which are flowers? How do we notice the subtle arising of anger or the fleeting presence of joy? We must be present for the garden of our mind, watching it with an intimate, moment-to-moment awareness. This faculty, this energy of being fully present with what is happening right now, is the heart of the entire path. It is the simple, yet revolutionary, practice of right mindfulness. In our modern world, we spend most of our lives in a state of mindlessness. Our bodies are in one place, but our minds are somewhere else entirely. We drive a familiar route and arrive at our destination with no memory of the journey. We eat a delicious meal while scrolling through our phones, never once truly tasting the food. We have a conversation with a loved one, but our mind is busy rehearsing what we want to say next, so we never truly hear them. We are living our lives on autopilot, caught in a dream of past regrets and future anxieties, perpetually absent from the only moment that is ever real. This one, we are rich in information and distraction, but we are impoverished in our own presence. Mindfulness is the antidote to this epidemic of absence. It is the simple art of waking up to our own lives. The practice is to gently bring the mind and body back together, into the same place. At the same time, to pay attention, on purpose, in the present moment, without judgment. When you are mindful, you are not trying to change what is happening. You are simply aware of it. You are not striving for some special state. You are anchoring yourself in the reality of what is. It is the end of the dress rehearsal. It is showing up, finally, for your own life. This practice is not something reserved for a meditation cushion in a quiet room. The cushion is just the training ground. The real practice takes place in the midst of our ordinary, daily lives. We can practice mindfulness while washing the dishes, while walking to our car, while listening to music, while drinking a cup of tea. Let us explore this now. Imagine you are holding a warm cup of tea. To drink this tea with mindfulness is to be fully present for the entire experience. First, you simply look at the cup. You notice its shape, its color, the way the light reflects on its surface. You see the steam rising, dancing in the air. You bring the cup closer and you feel its warmth spreading into your hands. A pleasant, grounding sensation. You notice the aroma of the tea, the subtle fragrance of the leaves, the earth, the rain. Then, you take a sip, and as the warm liquid touches your lips and fills your mouth, you are only tasting the tea. You are not thinking about your to-do list. You are not worrying about an email you need to send. You are not lost in a memory. In that moment, there is only you and the tea. You are fully present for the warmth, the flavor, the sensation. This is a simple act, but to perform it with your full attention is a miracle. It is a moment of true peace, a small island of sanity in a sea of distraction. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh has said that if you are not able to wash the dishes with mindfulness, you will not be able to drink your tea with mindfulness. Every moment is an opportunity. Washing the dishes can be a chore, or it can be a meditation, a chance to feel the warm water on your hands, to see the shimmering soap bubbles, to hear the clink of the plates. Each act, when bathed in the light of our full attention, becomes sacred. A journalist once asked Thich Nhat Hanh what it was that he and his monks practiced in their monastery. The journalist was expecting to hear about complex meditation techniques or profound philosophical secrets. The master's reply was profoundly simple. He said, "When we walk, we are aware that we are walking. When we eat, we are aware that we are eating. When we sit, we are aware that we are sitting." The journalist, slightly confused, replied, "But Master, isn't that what everybody does?" Thich Nhat Hanh smiled gently and said, "No, when most people are walking, they are thinking about their destination. When they are eating, they are thinking about their business. When they are sitting, their mind is 1,000 miles away. They are rarely ever present for what they are actually doing. The path to enlightenment, the path to peace, is not found in some far-off, mystical state. It is found in the radical act of being fully here for the unremarkable moments of our lives. It is waking up to the reality that this, right now, is our life. This breath, this sensation of the blanket on your skin, this sound in the distance, this is it. There is no other life waiting for you in the future. When we begin to practice this, the world comes alive again. It is as if we have been seeing life in black and white. and suddenly we begin to see it in vibrant color. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. The taste of a fresh strawberry becomes an explosion of sweetness. The sight of a single cloud drifting across the blue sky becomes a masterpiece of impermanent beauty. We rediscover the world that has been here all along, waiting patiently for us to notice it. We stop living for the future, for the weekend, for the next vacation, for retirement, and we start inhabiting the only time we ever have, which is now. As we continue this practice of moment-to-moment awareness, something begins to change. Our mind, which was once like a flickering candle flame, easily blown out by any passing thought or distraction, becomes more stable. The muscle of our attention grows stronger. We are more able to stay with our experience, to bring our wandering mind back, again and again, to our chosen anchor. This growing stability of mind, this ability to gather our awareness and hold it steady, like a focused beam of light rather than a scattered flickering, is the next step on our path. It is the powerful and clarifying practice of right concentration, the gentle, moment-to-moment attention of mindfulness is like learning to hold a candle in a breezy room. At first, the flame flickers wildly, easily disturbed by any passing draft of thought or sensation. Our practice is to keep gently bringing our attention back, protecting the flame, allowing it to grow stronger. As we continue this patient practice, something remarkable happens. The flame begins to steady. It becomes less disturbed by the winds of the mind. The scattered, flickering light of our awareness starts to gather itself into a clear, bright, and unwavering beam. This stable, unified, and powerful state of mind is called right concentration. Imagine your mind is a vast mountain lake. On most days, the wind is blowing. The surface of the lake is choppy, covered in countless waves and ripples. If you look at the reflection of the moon on this turbulent surface, what do you see? You see a shattered, fragmented image, 1,000 glittering pieces of light dancing chaotically. You cannot see the moon's true shape. This is the ordinary, unconcentrated mind. It is agitated by the winds of desire, aversion, worry, and restlessness. Its perception of reality is fragmented, distorted, and unreliable. Now, imagine the wind completely dies down. The air becomes perfectly still. The surface of the lake, no longer troubled by the waves, becomes as smooth and flawless as a sheet of glass. It becomes a perfect mirror. Now, when you look at the reflection of the moon, you see it perfectly. In all its serene, circular glory, you see the stars around it, the trees on the shore, every detail reflected with absolute clarity and precision. This is the concentrated mind. It is a mind that has become so still, so unified and free from disturbance, that it can accurately reflect reality just as it is. It is important to understand that this powerful concentration is not born from tense, forceful effort. We often associate the word concentration with the strain of a student cramming for an exam, gritting their teeth and forcing their mind to focus. This is not right concentration. That kind of effort only creates more tension, more waves on the lake. Right concentration is a state of profound ease and naturalness. It is the result of letting go, not of striving. Remember the glass of muddy water. You do not clear the water by stirring it more violently. You simply set it down. You allow it to be still, and through this non-interference, the mud of its own accord gently settles to the bottom, leaving the water pure and clear. In the same way, as we let go of our distractions, as we stop chasing thoughts and simply rest in the present moment, the mind naturally settles. It becomes alert yet relaxed, focused yet spacious. This is the stillness of the lake. There is a story of a master archer that beautifully illustrates this state of unified mind. When the master archer prepares to shoot, her process is a deep meditation. She does not simply aim and fire. First, she becomes aware of her feet, feeling her connection to the solid, stable earth. She feels the bow in her hand, not as a separate tool, but as a living extension of her own arm. As she draws the bowstring, she feels the rising tension, becoming one with its power. Her breath is slow, calm, and steady. Her gaze is fixed on the distant target. At the final moment, just before the release, a profound shift occurs. There is no longer a separate archer, a separate bow, a separate arrow, and a separate target. All four have merged into a single, unified, and seamless event. The sense of a doer, a separate self who is performing an action, dissolves completely, and from this place of perfect oneness, the arrow is not so much shot as it is simply released, flying with unerring accuracy to the very heart of the target. As a natural and effortless consequence of this perfect concentration, this state of unification is called samadhi. It is the goal of concentration practice. When our object of meditation is the breath, the mind becomes so absorbed that the feeling of me watching the breath disappears. There is only the process of breathing itself, unfolding in a field of silent, alert awareness. The mind becomes still, powerful, and whole. But this stillness, as beautiful as it is not the final goal. The stillness of the lake is not an end in itself. It is the means to a much deeper end. Its purpose is to create the perfect condition for wisdom to arise. When the lake is choppy and turbulent, you cannot see what lies at the bottom. But when it becomes perfectly still and clear, you can now look down through the crystal water and see everything that lies beneath. You can see the smooth pebbles, the gently swaying plants, the fish swimming in the depths. You can see the hidden landscape that was previously obscured by the surface agitation. This ability to see beneath the surface is wisdom, or prajna. A concentrated mind is like a powerful scientific instrument. It is a laser beam that can penetrate the surface appearance of things to see their true nature. It is with a still and concentrated mind that we can look deeply and see for ourselves the truth of impermanence. It is with this mind that we can directly experience the interconnectedness of all things. It is with this mind that we can investigate the nature of the self and see that it is an empty boat, without concentration. These are just interesting philosophical ideas. With concentration, they become direct, lived, and liberating experiences. Concentration is the platform from which we see reality. And so, as the mind settles into this deep, quiet stillness, as the waters become clear and the surface becomes a perfect mirror, we are ready. We are no longer looking at a distorted and fragmented reflection of the world. We are prepared to see things as they truly are, without the filter of our own agitation and delusion. This act of clear seeing, this direct and penetrating insight into the nature of reality, is the dawn of true wisdom. It is the arising of right view. The mind, now settled and serene, is like a perfectly still mountain lake on a windless night. Its surface, free from the ripples of agitation, has become a flawless mirror. For most of our lives, we have been looking at a distorted, fragmented reflection of reality. But now, with the power of this stillness, we have the capacity to see clearly. We are ready to look beyond the reflections and see things as they truly are. This clear seeing, this direct, penetrating insight, is the dawn of wisdom. It is called right view. Right view is not about adopting a new set of beliefs or memorizing a philosophical system. It is about trading in our blindness for sight. There is a famous ancient parable that illustrates this perfectly. A king brought an elephant into his courtyard and summoned a group of men who had been born blind. He invited them each to touch the elephant and describe what it is. The first man touched the elephant's broad, sturdy leg and declared, "An elephant is like a great pillar." The second man got a hold of the tail and announced, "No, you are wrong. An elephant is like a rope." A third touched the smooth, sharp tusk and said, "You are both mistaken. An elephant is like a solid, pointed pipe." Another felt the large, flapping ear and insisted the elephant was like a fan. The one who touched its vast side described it as a solid wall. Having each experienced only one part, they fell into a fierce argument, each one completely certain that their own limited, partial experience was the whole truth. In our ordinary, unenlightened state, we are all like these blind men. We grasp onto our own limited perspective, our personal feelings, our conditioned opinions, our fears and desires, and we mistake it for the totality of reality. We see only the leg or the tail of the elephant, and we build our entire worldview around it, creating conflict with those who have touched a different part. Right view is the experience of the person with sight, who can step back and see the whole elephant. It is the ability to see beyond our own partial experience and perceive the true nature of things. So what does this clear-eyed wisdom see? It does not see some mystical, otherworldly secret. It sees, with undeniable, experiential clarity, the fundamental truths we have been exploring on this entire journey. It is the difference between reading about a country on a map and actually arriving there, feeling its sun on your skin and breathing its air. With the clear, concentrated mind, we see directly the truth of impermanence. We don't just think that things change, we perceive the constant, moment-to-moment flux of all reality. From the cells in our body to the thoughts in our mind, we see that life is a river, not a statue. We also see directly the truth of dissatisfaction, or dukkha. We see with unshakable clarity that trying to find lasting happiness by clinging to the ever-changing flow of the river is a futile, stress-inducing strategy. We see that our suffering is not caused by the world, but by our own grasping and aversion towards the world. And most profoundly, we see directly the truth of no self, or anatta. We look for the permanent, independent captain of the boat, and we find only the changing components, the body, the feelings, the thoughts. We see that the self we so fiercely defend is not a solid entity, but a flowing, dynamic process, like a wave on the ocean. This direct seeing is the ultimate medicine. It is the wisdom that cuts the very root of our suffering. The roots of all our pain are said to be the three poisons: greed, hatred, and delusion. Right view is the antidote to them all. When you truly and deeply see for yourself that everything is impermanent, the frantic energy of greed and clinging naturally subsides. Why exhaust yourself trying to clench your fist around water when you see for yourself the empty, selfless nature of all beings? The fire of hatred and aversion finds no fuel. Who exactly is there to hate? And who is the solid self who is doing the hating? You see that the actions of others arise from their own complex causes and conditions, from their own suffering. And most importantly, right view is the direct antidote to delusion, which is the fundamental blindness of not seeing things as they are. Wisdom is the light that, when switched on, dispels the darkness of ignorance completely. We can spend our whole lives pruning the branches of our suffering, managing our anxiety, trying to control our anger. But wisdom is the axe that cuts the root of the tree. When the root is cut, the entire tree of suffering withers and dies on its own. This is why right view is placed first on the Buddha's eightfold path. It is the compass that sets the direction for the entire journey. If our view of the world is wrong, then all of our efforts will be misdirected. If we believe that happiness is found in accumulating wealth and power, then our speech, our actions, and our efforts will all be aimed in that direction, a direction that leads only to more complexity and stress. Right view orients us correctly. It points us toward the internal source of peace. It ensures that our mindfulness is not just aimless noticing, but a tool for insight. It ensures that our concentration is not just for creating a temporary bliss state, but for sharpening the mind to see the truth. Right view is the rudder that steers the ship of our life towards the shore of liberation. As this clear seeing deepens, as the whole elephant comes into view, one of the most beautiful aspects of reality begins to shine forth. We move beyond just seeing that things are impermanent and selfless. We begin to see, with breathtaking clarity, exactly how all these seemingly separate parts are woven together into a single, seamless whole. We see that the leg is not separate from the tusk, which is not separate from the tail. We see that nothing, absolutely nothing, exists by itself. Everything in the universe leans on everything else for its existence. This profound insight into the intricate, luminous web of life is the wisdom of interbeing. With a mind as clear and still as a mountain lake, we are able to see beyond our own limited, partial views. We see the whole elephant. We see the fundamental nature of reality, that all things are impermanent, that clinging to them brings dissatisfaction, and that there is no solid, separate self to be found. As this wisdom deepens, one final, breathtaking insight dawns upon the horizon of the mind. We begin to see not just that all things are connected, but how they are connected. We see that nothing, absolutely nothing, exists by itself. This is the profound and heart-opening wisdom of interbeing. Let us explore this together, not with complex philosophy, but by looking deeply into something very small and ordinary. Imagine, as you rest here, that you are holding a single, tiny seed of corn in the palm of your hand. It seems so simple, so self-contained, but let us ask the question, what is this seed made of for this single seed to exist? It needed a parent cornstalk for that stalk to grow. It needed the light and the warmth of the sun. So, The sun is not just in the sky. The energy of the sun is right here, inside this tiny seed. Without the sun, there is no corn. The stalk also needed water. The water came from the rain, and the rain came from the clouds. So, if we look deeply, we can see the clouds and the rain inside this seed. Without the clouds, there is no corn. The stalk also needed to grow in the earth. It needed the soil, with all its minerals and nutrients. So, the rich, dark earth is also present in this tiny seed. Without the earth, there is no corn. The cornstalk also needed a farmer. A farmer had to plant the seed, tend the young plant, and harvest the ear of corn. The farmer's labor, his sweat, his hopes, they are all here in this seed. And the farmer, in turn, needed his own parents to be born. And they needed their parents, a long chain of ancestors stretching back through time, all of whom are, in some way, responsible for the existence of this seed. The farmer also needed tools to work the land, which means the miners who dug the ore, the factory workers who forged the steel, and the merchants who sold the tools are also present. The whole economy, the whole of human history, is somehow contained in this single, humble seed of corn. When we look this deeply, we see a miraculous truth. The seed of corn, which seems so separate, is empty of a separate, independent self, but it is full of the entire cosmos. It is full of the sun, the clouds, the earth, the farmer, and all of history. To be is to interbe. This is the great principle of dependent origination. This is, because that is, the flower is, because the non-flower elements like sunshine, rain, and soil are. This piece of paper is, because the non-paper elements like the forest, the logger, and the cloud are. Nothing can exist by itself. For itself, everything in the universe leans upon everything else for its existence. The ancient scriptures of the East offer a beautiful image to describe this interconnected reality. It is called Indra's net, imaginaire vaste, infinite net that stretches out in all directions, encompassing the entire universe. At every single knot or intersection of this net, there hangs a single, brilliant, multifaceted jewel. The miraculous nature of this net is that if you look closely into the polished surface of any one jewel, you will see reflected in it every other jewel in the entire net, and within each of those infinite reflections, you will also see the reflections of all the other jewels, and so on, in a dazzling, unending display of mutual reflection. Each of us, every person, every animal, every plant, every single event, is one of these jewels. We are unique and distinct, yet we contain within us the entirety of the cosmos. The whole universe is present in every single cell of your body. What happens to one jewel is instantly reflected in all the others. A smile on one face sends a glimmer of light across the entire net. A tear shed in one corner sends a ripple of sorrow through the whole. This is the profound truth of our reality. When this understanding moves from being an idea in the head to a felt reality in the heart, it changes everything. First, it completely shatters the painful illusion of separation, the feeling of being a lonely, isolated individual, a stranger in a foreign universe. is seen for what it is: a profound misunderstanding. You are not separate. You are not a stranger here. You are as fundamental to the cosmos as the sun and the stars. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a single drop. This realization is a great homecoming. It is a deep, abiding sense of belonging. Second, this wisdom becomes the ultimate foundation for an ethical life. When you truly see that you inter-are with every other being, the line between self and other becomes transparent. Harming another being is, quite literally, harming yourself. Polluting a river is poisoning your own body. Speaking a word of hatred is planting a seed of poison in the shared garden of consciousness. Compassion is no longer a moral should. It becomes the only sane and logical way to live. Any act of kindness you offer to another, a helping hand, a listening ear, a gentle word, is an act of kindness to your larger self. Loving your neighbor becomes the same as loving yourself, because you see that your neighbor is your other self. This deep insight into the web of life is the culmination of wisdom. It is seeing the whole elephant and seeing how every part of it is connected in a living, breathing miracle. In a heart that knows it is with everything. The fires of greed, hatred, and delusion find no ground to burn. The feeling of separation, which is the root of all fear, dissolves into a feeling of profound connection. And what remains when these fires have been extinguished? What is left when the illusion of a separate self has vanished and been replaced by a deep and abiding communion with all of life? What do we call this state of profound peace? This ultimate freedom, this unwavering serenity. This is the final aim of the path we have walked together tonight. It is our return to the home we never truly left. It is the cool, clear, and liberating peace of nirvana. Through the lens of wisdom, we have seen the world not as a collection of separate, solid things, but as a vast, shimmering, interconnected web. We have seen that we are not separate from the sun, the clouds, the earth, or from each other. We inter-are. This profound insight is the culmination of our journey of understanding. It extinguishes the fires of greed and hatred, which thrive on the illusion of separation. It dissolves the fog of delusion, and when these fires that cause all our stress and suffering are finally cooled, what is left? What is this state of profound peace, of unshakable freedom, of deep and abiding serenity? This is the shore we have been heading for all along. This is our return to the home we never truly left. This is the cool, clear peace of nirvana. In the West, the word nirvana is often misunderstood. It is imagined as a kind of heavenly paradise, a beautiful garden of eternal bliss that one goes to after death. But this is not its true meaning. The word nirvana in the ancient Pali language literally means to extinguish or to blow out, like blowing out a candle flame. It means to cool. What is it that is extinguished? It is the three fires that we have spoken of: the fire of greed and grasping, the fire of hatred and aversion, and the fire of ignorance and delusion. It is the extinguishing of the fever of craving that keeps us in a perpetual state of dissatisfaction. It is not the annihilation of you, but the annihilation of the illusion of a separate self, the illusion that has caused all the pain. The result is not a void of nothingness, but a boundless expanse of peace, clarity, and unconditional freedom. And the most beautiful truth about nirvana is that it is not a destination in a distant future. It is a possibility in this very moment. It is the peace that is always available to you, right here, Right now, underneath the surface noise of your mind, every time you mindfully choose not to act on an impulse of greed, you experience a small moment of nirvana's coolness. Every time you meet a rising anger with compassion instead of reaction, you taste the freedom of nirvana. Every time your mind settles on the breath and becomes calm and still, that stillness is the peace of nirvana. It is not something you have to build or achieve. It is your true nature, your original state, which has simply been covered over by the clouds of our conditioning. The practice is not about creating the blue sky. It is simply allowing the clouds to drift by, revealing the vast, clear, peaceful sky that has been there all along. There is a poignant story in the Lotus Sutra that speaks directly to our human condition. A very poor man went to visit a dear and wealthy friend. They enjoyed a wonderful evening together, and the poor man, tired from his travels, drank some wine and fell into a deep sleep. His wealthy friend was suddenly called away on an urgent journey. Before leaving, wanting to ensure his friend would be taken care of for the rest of his life, he took out a priceless, wish-fulfilling jewel and secretly, carefully, sewed it into the inner lining of his sleeping friend's ragged coat. The poor man eventually woke up, completely unaware of the treasure he was now carrying. He left his friend's home and began a life of immense hardship. He wandered from city to city, taking on the most difficult and menial jobs just to earn a meager bit of food and shelter. He was constantly struggling, always searching for happiness and security outside of himself, all the while carrying a treasure that could have ended his suffering in an instant. Many years later, weary and destitute, he happened to cross paths with his wealthy friend again. The friend was shocked to see him in such a wretched state. "My dear friend," he exclaimed, "why have you allowed yourself to live like this? Why have you suffered so? All those years ago, I sewed a priceless jewel into your coat so that you would have everything you ever needed. You have been living as a beggar while secretly possessing an unimaginable treasure." The man, in disbelief, reached into the tattered lining of his own coat, and there, to his astonishment, he found the brilliant jewel that had been with him on his entire journey of suffering. We are all that man, each and every one of us, without exception, has this priceless jewel sewn into the very fabric of our being. Our true nature, our Buddha nature, is already perfect, complete, peaceful, and luminous, but we are unaware of it. We have fallen asleep to our own inner wealth, and so we wander through life as beggars, seeking happiness in fleeting external things, in possessions, in achievements, in the approval of others. We endure so much unnecessary struggle, so much anxiety and fear, all because we do not know the treasure we carry within, the entire spiritual path. This whole journey we have taken tonight is not about finding or earning a jewel we do not have. It is simply the process of waking up. It is the moment of recognition when we finally look within and realize the peace and freedom we have been seeking has been with us all along. This changes everything. It means that true, lasting happiness is not dependent on what happens to us. It is not dependent on getting what we want and avoiding what we don't. It is not swayed by the 8 worldly winds of praise and blame, gain and loss. It is an unconditional peace, a quality of our own mind that is always accessible, regardless of our outer circumstances. The journey, therefore, is not one of self-improvement, of trying to add new qualities to ourselves to become a better person. It is a journey of self-discovery, of subtraction, not addition. It is the process of letting go of the layers of dust and grime, the layers of fear, of delusion, of conditioning that have obscured the brilliance of our inner jewel. The journey is not about becoming a Buddha. It is about waking up to the fact that you already are one. And so, we have come to the end of our path. We began with a mind like a turbulent river, and we learned to sit peacefully on its bank. We learned to welcome the guests of emotion, to find our anchor in the breath, to understand the futility of grasping, the wisdom of impermanence, and the freedom of the empty boat. We tended the garden of our hearts with love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. We learned to transform the fire of anger, to offer the gift of forgiveness, and to walk gently upon the earth. We have seen with the eye of wisdom and felt our profound connection to all of life. And all of this has simply led us back here, to our true home, the silent, spacious, and peaceful awareness that is our birthright. You have arrived. There is nowhere else you need to go. There is nothing else you need to become. You are home. Rest now, in the radiant peace of your own true nature. And so, our long journey through the starlit landscapes of the heart comes to a gentle close. We began tonight beside a restless river of thoughts, and we learned to sit peacefully on its bank. We stood before the door of our mind's house and found the courage to welcome every guest, both the joyful and the sad. We discovered the unwavering anchor of the breath, a constant refuge in any storm. Together, we have looked into the nature of our suffering, seeing it as a fist clenched around sand, and we have learned the freedom of an open hand. We have floated in the empty boat of the selfless mind and stood firm like an unshakable mountain against the winds of praise and blame. We have tended the garden of our heart, planting the seeds of loving kindness, compassion, and joy. And finally, we have returned to our true home, discovering the priceless jewel of peace that has been sewn into the fabric of our being from the very beginning. The greatest secret we have discovered tonight is that peace is not a distant destination we must struggle to reach, but our original home to which we can always return. The fables and teachings we have shared are not just stories to entertain the mind. They are mirrors. In the story of the two monks, we see a reflection of our own tendency to carry the past. In the story of the angry elephant, we see a reflection of our own untamed emotions. And in the story of the hidden jewel, we see the reflection of our own forgotten, innate goodness. The purpose of these mirrors is simply to help us see ourselves with more clarity and boundless compassion. As the deep, restorative currents of sleep begin to draw you under, I know that this peace does not need to end when these words do. The journey does not stop here. You are taking all of these tools with you into your rest and into your waking life tomorrow. The anchor of your breath is always with you. The choice to observe a thought rather than become it is always available. The capacity to meet your own heart with kindness is always within reach. Let go now. There is nothing more to do, nothing left to figure out. Allow these seeds of wisdom to settle into the deep, fertile soil of your subconscious, to be watered by your sleep, and to blossom in your life in their own time. Drift now into the deep, silent ocean of rest. May your sleep be peaceful and profound. May you awaken refreshed, with a heart a little lighter and a mind a little clearer. May you walk through your day tomorrow with the quiet confidence of one who knows where to find their true home. Peace be with you.